Okay, so just wanted to put a quick announcement, which I'm probably going to post on TikTok. But first, I'm going to wait for people to come on. And with TikTok being, up in the air, definitely follow me on YouTube. My handle is Sacred Intimacy Tarot. On YouTube, you can go to my profile page on Linktree, and I'll link you directly to my YouTube page where I do a lot of lives. I've been holding back on doing lives on YouTube because I'm still here. It's my favorite format. YouTube, I still have kind of like a problem with them with what happened during COVID, how they were shutting people down. But I do want to talk about the energy of the twin flame dynamics and the star seed, which is, for some of us, one and the same. Many of us have star seeds. We've returned in consciousness. We're realizing who we are and our original forms and our original maker and things of that nature. And it's quite fascinating. The Akashic readings that I do are showing me such intimate aspects of how we fell into 3D. I have a client who has been working with me for 2 years, and he wanted his young son, who's I think going on 20 years old, to do an Akashic reading. And the Akashic reading with him was really interesting because he didn't fall because he fucked up. Like some of us, we really did mess up. Some of us, we were betrayed. I keep saying the same thing, but just in case you're new to me. And this incredible young soul basically realized that when he started taking incarnations on lower and lower frequencies, that the ultimate drop in conscious awareness, the amnesia, in other words, the what I call the spiritual Alzheimer's, would befall him. And it was as if he didn't care. What he really wanted was experience. That was all that he wanted, was experience. In the other realms, he'd been watching other type of humanoids, interaction, the concept of passion, creativity, even despair. This was the first time I did an Akashic reading where this particular soul wanted to feel it all. Like, bring it on. I want to feel it all. In one incarnation, he was so bored, so like removed from his heart at some point, that there was a cruelty that evolved from his boredom. And there was an entitlement because he was well born, a lord, a nobleman. And there was a loss of his life. And it felt like a relief because it was such a mundane life. He was losing his mind because his whole thing, and he's not a daredevil, don't get me wrong. He's not Evel Knievel or some daredevil. He wants to feel alive. He wants to feel everything. Along the way, he lost his ability to speak his truth to himself and to the world. And one of the exercises that I had him do, and I'm having him do, there are two. One is throat chakra work, which is through belting out a mantra as hard as loud as he can, believe it or not. And at first it felt like he was cracking calcification in his throat chakra. I'm not joking. It wasn't because he was shy. It was literally the calcification in his throat chakra was so intense that he was having a hard time actually belting, yelling, which was crazy. And we did it again and again, and finally it burst through. So the other thing is there's a particular calisthenic type of workout that's it's a mixture of Brazilian martial arts, and the download was given to me that he needs to actually somatically master his nervous system through those exercises. And that was some of the messages, and that would actually calm his nervous system so that he wouldn't be so agitated. So between the throat chakra work and the somatic release, he was going to be in his power. And it's beautiful to see 20-year-olds. And when I mean literally 20-year-olds. Like my son's 24, he's 20, going on 21 probably next year. And I'm seeing these young divine, and the reason I'm going to call them divine masculines is just because I'm very clear about words. Divine masculines is because these are young masculines who were born around 2000 and upwards. who are fully aware they need to heal. And they're fucking on it. And as I tell these young men, there are men twice your age, 3 times your age, that don't have the courage you have in looking in the bowels of their shadows to do their healing. You're much more wise and mature than men twice. So again, it has nothing to do with age, does it? Wisdom, integrity, honor, self-awareness, self-realization. A lot of these young men out here are part of the matrix, but there are a lot of young men out here that are really, they're going to make amazing partners for the right women. And apparently what's probably happening is that the women that are meant to meet them and become their partner in this incarnation are also doing their own work, most likely, you know? So these are very advanced, wise, starseed souls that have come here to assist in the evolution of this planet. And I'm so, like, awed. Like, I wish sometimes that some of you who are listening to me right now could be on fly on the wall to hear what I hear and why I'm so filled with joy in realizing that these souls are here among us. I don't know about you, but when I was going to college and high school and so forth, high school, college, whatever, I didn't have that kind of fucking faith in humanity, to be honest with you. There were very few enlightened souls that had incarnated. I'm sorry, okay? The boomer generation, which I'm part of, and I'm not ashamed of it, because I know that many of us who were incarnating during this generation were badasses, because very few people can take the loneliness that it entails to know what we were born knowing around people who fucking can't even tie their spiritual shoelace on their own. So, and there's no arrogance. I'm just telling you that it's very hard to talk to someone about the simple concept of reincarnation. It's like, you know, what's beautiful about my connection with many of you is I don't have to fucking explain shit. You're like walking beside me. In fact, you're running ahead. We're fucking sparring together, verbally, energetically, and we're throwing the ball back and forth, and we're always catching it, right? Whereas you have to understand that for people like my twin, who was born in 1947, for people like me, for people like my father, we were called kooks because of what we believed in. I mean, it's no wonder that my father, who was a psychic, and I'm talking about massive psychic, like he could see how things were going to go down verbatim. And so it's interesting too, because psychic energy would have probably been easier to tap into, believe it or not, in the turn of the century, because of less, well, we didn't have fucking satellites, hello. So the frequency would have been, there would have been no disturbance in the frequency field to pick up on portals, to pick up on downloads, to pick up on things like that. But I remember, and this is something that I learned from him, and actually I actually continue in this tradition of being insomniac, and sometimes, okay, not always, but when my body is restless, or at 2-3 o'clock in the morning, this is when you write, this is when you meditate, this is when you connect with the etheric field, because everyone's asleep. The electronic systems are shut down or closed or dormant, and you're more likely being able to download and stuff like that. In fact, this is when you want to do your long meditations, your guided meditations, your frequency work, and all of that, your remote healing to your twin, if that's your story, or your child, your adult child, or someone you love. You can do a lot of your remote healing, because 9 times out of 10 they're asleep, unless there's like a different hour system. So they're while you're up at 2-3 o'clock in the morning, they're rising, right? And they're getting ready for work or whatever, or school, and you can remote heal them. There's a lot of potency to this time of this time in the middle of the night, in the middle of the morning, actually. And if you're able to just go with it, try to then catch up with sleep. Like, don't try to run on an empty gas tank. It doesn't work with a car. The car will stop. And you don't want to squeeze yourself to an impossible level where you deplete your energy and you blow your gaskets, your adrenal glands. So you got to be really kind of aware. So if you're going to have these late nights and whatever, just be divinely inspired, speak to your guides, do whatever you need to do. But then make sure that if you've done it for like out of a whole 7-day week, if you've done this insomniac thing for 4 days out of the week, make sure that for the next 3 days during the weekend, you don't fucking go out. You kind of like cocoon yourself into healing and catching up, right? And that's going to be important. I did want to do some energy work and tell you what I'm feeling about the energy for us on the ascension train. There's a lot of things that are we're being slammed with. Our habits to process violence or things of that nature are triggering of being triggered by injustice is going to trigger our root chakra on multiple levels of outrage, not just because of what we're seeing in this incarnation, but it's going to trigger past life, somatic, spiritual memory in you. And you're going to have to sit with that and really sit with that and not be dragged by the passions and the energies of impulsivity that you're feeling or watching or witnessing. Be careful with being dragged into the 3D mud, okay? Or mud wrestling matches that you're seeing across the internet in the energy. The injustice that we're watching is just a trigger for many of us to raise our frequency to a high level. Because as I've said this to you before, you can't fight fire with fire at all. The best way to fight 3D injustice, bloodshed, geno, wars, greed, so on, is through the high frequency of you manifesting. One of the things, and again, I'm doing this live in the middle of the night, more or less, because I know that some of you in Europe are listening. More likely you are, in the UK and so forth. So hopefully this is going to give you a B12 shot to your soul. You need to understand how incredibly important you are to raising the frequency of this. This is not to ignore the facts of what's going on to our brothers and sisters in 3D. It's like this is when, it's interesting too, because we have held sacred space for many things in the last, 14 months, if you know what I'm saying. If you've been following what's been going on the planet, you know exactly what I mean when I say 14 months. And we have grieved. We have seen all of this. And what you have to understand is what you saw in that part of the world has been written about by Homer, the Odyssey, the Iliad. I'm not joking. It's the same. And I don't want to get too graphic, but let's suffice it to say that these kinds of acts of barbarity, of avarice, of cruelty, has been played out again and again throughout our history in this country and all these countries. And so if we get dragged down, this is the first time I've ever said that, because I'm all about let's know what the fuck's going on, then we can heal it. And so now we know what's going on. Like, we don't have to worry about the fact that we're ignorant. Well, you know. So now it's time to turn your back on the energy, not to ignore it. Don't get me wrong. Don't get to raise the frequency of the planet to bring into 5D. We're never going to win this if we play 3D to 3D. Game over. If we go into 5, 6D consciousness and above, some of you have the power to go above. Some of you have the power to actually, some of you were given skill sets to do certain things on the planet. Some of you with the air. Some of you with the water. You have it in you. Some of you were given light codes that you are supposed to work on. How will you know? Because of what you're attracted to. Cleaning the water, cleaning the earth, cleaning the air, cleaning the frequency of all this electromagnetic fucking shit that's hitting us. Watch the movie Johnny Mnemonic if you don't understand what I'm saying. Great movie with Keanu Reeves. Again, Johnny Mnemonic. It's from the early 90s, I believe, whatever. But the point is, we do also have frequency pollution, okay, from satellites, from this, from that. I'm not going to get too much into it, but we do have it. So silence, for me, silence in the woods, silence on the beach, silence in a room. If you need to work with water, then go ahead and do what Dr. Emoto taught us about the frequency of water, and chant a mantra over a water in your shower and visualize an ocean, visualize lakes and streams, and imbue it with frequency light codes of ascension. Start doing it at the smallest level. When you drink your cup of water, infuse it, because the water is very much part of the collective consciousness of water. We also are made up of water and crystals. And so when we do something with attention, like for example, I'll give you an example. And I've talked about it before, but not really correctly. So now I'm going to take my time. When I took my cup of ayahuasca, right? And 3 and 4 and whatever. And then afterwards we integrated in a circle, right? The following morning, we were all asked, what exactly did you get, or blah, blah, blah. And my hit was that I knew that many people would never take ayahuasca, never. First of all, they wouldn't have the money, they wouldn't have the contacts or whatever, right? And so as I took the cup, I was taking it not just for myself, but for the collective, for the great awakening. So it's kind of like the sequoia trees up in Northern California. I don't know if you know, but they are actually sharing the same root system, the sequoia trees. So in that similar vein, we do have that ability to connect with each other. And so when we claim healing for ourselves and claim healing for our brothers and sisters around the world, it actually works. It's called remote healing. You've heard of remote healing. You've seen it. You've read about it. And you've seen how it works with individual healers to a particular person that needs their healing. But to be honest with you, it's been, I think, promoted in such a way to give it an elitism, like only certain people can do it. And the truth is that anybody that has the pure intention in their heart that really wants the greater good for everyone, really means it, can do that kind of remote healing on a collective, widespread wave of unconditional love frequency. So abundance of love, health, and wealth to the all, bringing and saying, I am so grateful that I live on planet Earth in the 5D frequency, 5-6D frequency, that I now, every step I take is on the new earth. And I'm so grateful that everyone on this planet is blessed with love, health, and wealth, and that the abundance, the generosity of our people is across the board, are normal. You don't say, you don't have to say, I do not consent to shit. It's truly, unless you see something that's brought to your face, and you better say, I do not consent. Because even apathy, meaning saying nothing, is a consent. Believe it or not. If somebody says, can I kiss you? And you say no, that's it. You do not consent. If you say yes, okay. If you say nothing and they kiss you, you're like, why would you kiss me? Well, because you said nothing, and I assume your silence was a consent. I'm giving it to you in very simple terms, like the simplest terms I can think of in terms of that level. So when you see on polls, in polls, voting polls, do you like chocolate or vanilla or whatever the fuck they're asking, and you'll have people who literally have they'll have a yes, no, and then undecided. Can you imagine? So you always want to make decisions. Even the wrong decision is better than no decision. You have to trust that the decision has to come from your heart. I was doing a reading tonight with a client, and I asked her, do you believe you're going to be, love, you're going to have the companionship of love, this, that, and the other in this incarnation? And I had her go into her heart chakra. And I said, so up, down, or neutral? Up, down, or neutral? She waited for maybe, 60 seconds. And she said, up. She goes, what does that mean? It means yes. It means yes. See, if you try to figure out the truth of an answer, right? And you try to use your brain, which is a monkey mind, which is going through a very dense 3-density filtering system, which is clogged with rocks and mire and stones and cement, all that, and fear and anger and jealousy and whatever the hell it's feeling, right? If you're dealing with your monkey mind and you're trying to logically ferret out the answer, you will fail. You will fail. If you feel the answer, the heart chakra is the seat of your soul, not to mention it's the compass of truth, and it will never, 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 ever lie. This is when people say, oh yeah, well, yeah, I've trusted my heart before and it didn't work out. And I'm like, no, you didn't trust your heart. because your heart told you the red flags. You didn't listen. And I've called people out on that. And people have said, I'm like, no, seriously, be honest with yourself, because you're not going to be able to understand how to work your heart if you're not honest. You really did not listen to your heart, because had you listened to your heart, you saw those red flags. Be honest, and they'll sit. And 9 times out of 10, so one of them will get defensive, because this is how people are. But they will say, you're right, I did see. Well, yeah, no kidding. Of course you saw the red flag. But you had a soul contract to be with that person, or you had a unfinished business karmic loop that you needed to see for what it was, or whatever the hell it was. But 9 times out of, I don't care if they're tiny little red flags. And that is something that, so heart coherence connection to your compass is probably the greatest gift you can give yourself in this incarnation. And it will, once you master it, you're not going to regress at all. Also, you'll become more and more transcendental, because as you get the answers and the answers come true, right? Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, meaning you need more energy, you need more information, you need more time. It's not time yet. Then you won't get an answer. You'll feel absolutely nothing. But you have to also be honest with yourself to say, wait, do I feel nothing? Because I feel nothing, period. And my heart chakra is completely blocked up with gunk and shit like that. Then at that point, you know that the sign, if that's the answer for you, then the sign is to work on all your chakras methodically, without missing a beat, every day, no matter what, rain or shine, in your car, at a break, twice a day, maybe even. And then you'll be able to get that wheel spinning and free from, the blockages that are embedded in your heart chakra. And eventually you'll be able to connect, and you'll get really sparkling answers. And sometimes it will be a no. Yeah, absolutely. And you have to live with that. You got to go, well, no. Okay. So when you get a no from the universe, what are they asking you? Well, they're asking you to trust them unconditionally, without condition. And that's important. Okay. It's not about, God, if you do this, then I'll do that. Or if you give me that, then that proves that I was, this, that, and the other. No, you have to surrender to timing of X, Y, and Z, and move into taking one step forward to maybe another direction that you probably didn't want to do. But it's going to divinely guide you to your mission. And your mission will be revealed as you open your heart bigger and wider, with unconditional trust to the universe and to yourself, actually, to be honest with you, because you decided to come here and you had a series of agendas and missions that you wanted to accomplish. And then, of course, you go to high school, you do this, you do that, and you lose your mind, basically. You lose your heart, actually. Not your mind. You definitely want to lose your mind, but you lose your heart. You lose the pathway of your heart. And it starts out at a very young age. And one of the things that I find sad is that some people actually don't even know what they want. They don't even know what they're interested in. And I'm not sure if that's accurate, honestly. I think that what happened is when they were very young, they were told, they got messages, maybe not even directly to them, but they heard the messages from outside influences of parents, teachers, family members, about the impossibility of doing X, Y, and Z, because, you don't want to be a broke artist, or you don't want to be a this, or you'll never be an astronaut, or whatever the hell it is, right? And so the message is limit what you want. Be realistic in what you want. Realistic in what you want. It's crazy, right? And today, with social media and having so many choices and platforms growing at an exponential rate, you have choices to express yourself and to bring your vision of a better planet with your creative gifts to the planet in any way you want. What is preventing you is you feeling like you're not ready. And so that is the harm that comes from being a perfectionist or a quasi-perfectionist. And perfectionists are masters at making excuses not to just fucking deliver the product. It doesn't matter if it's imperfect. It actually doesn't. The product being delivered, especially when you're first starting out, your first novel, your first painting, your first whatever, your first app that you're whatever, right? What's important isn't that it's perfect. What's important is that you have good allies that have told you this is good, and you know it's good. You feel it in your heart. Did you notice? Not in your mind, in your heart, that it's good and that it could help people. And so it could be tweaked here and there. You could find something better that could tweak it, but that could take years and years and years. And when people do that, this perfectionist idea is they will try to, clear, clean, and improve something to the point where it never gets delivered to the planet, to the collective, never. And eventually they go on to the next project. And that's why eventually they get accused, and they accuse themselves of never finishing what they start. It doesn't matter if it's not perfect. You're not here to please everyone. In fact, some of the products, creative works, whatever, that you feel are imperfect could be the rawness that many people need to either listen to, hear, read, view, whatever. And it's the rawness that's so impactful. And there's a point where you can become such a perfectionist in a product that you want to put out that you have pasteurized the passion out of it, right? You take it through Gramercy, for example, to give you an example, and it is pasteurized the passion right out of what you created. And if you look at anyone who creates, right, heart-centered business, look at some of the ways people are making money, right? It's ridiculous, but it's heart exciting because it's so simple. But people want to complicate. Like I had a client, I did a career reading for her a couple days ago, and she's having issues with her career, working for other people, right? They're treating her like shit. It's making her feel like crap. She is looking to apply for other jobs. But I told her she had just come back from Oaxaca, and Oaxaca is like an amazing place in Mexico. And they are famous for their artisans and craftsmen and all kinds of things. And I'm not going to tell you what I told her to do for the business, but let me put it this way to her. She's a woman, I'm a woman. And she was coming up with ideas of earrings and cups and, pottery ware and things like that. And I was like, you got to think more like a man. She goes, what do you mean? Well, you're looking to buy things that can break the pottery, and you're looking at things that are very funny. Jewelry is a very funny thing. And you got to sell all of it to make a profit, or else you're fucked. And you're stuck with like 20 pairs of earrings. And you only sell one pair. That's not a good. But what do you think would sell? And so we talked about it. And I gave her some ideas. Let's just say it was leather-based. Leather and embroidery. I'll just say that because it's an idea I don't want anyone to take, right? But I gave her 2 options. And she loved it. And I said, because that's portable. It won't break. You can fucking throw it in a padded envelope and you're good to go. And that'll make you money. And the reason why this is good for her to import certain products is because if she can import 2 or 3 items and make those 2 or 3 items go viral, game over. Now, I saw that happening with Free People, where they were buying en masse certain products that local artisans on Etsy were producing, and Free People were buying it. One was a hairbrush, I swear to God, just a fucking hairbrush. And the hairbrush was being sold for like, I don't know, I think it was $48, which is it's not cheap. And on the back, it had different patterns. Like I'm going to give you an example. Like one hairbrush, the paddle on the back had red poppies in a field. Swear to God, that was it. Then another one had an owl. Then the other one, you might have even, some of you women might actually remember who I'm talking about. Anyway, she disappeared. She might have died. You never know. COVID happened. Shit happened to people. But my point to you is that she made a killing. She made a living. And so you need to simplify a product or what you want to sell. You don't want to go too much into it and get too overly confused. You've got to keep it simple, stupid, but love it. You need to love what you're about to put out. You need to love it. Some of us, unfortunately, are rebellious. And we create products that are, there's comedian Ian. Anyway, some of us are creating products that are complicated. What do I mean? Well, some painters out there right now are creating work that is not in the norm. They're not painting white canvases on white. They're painting things that are a different expression of the ascension for us. They're actually the voices, the visual poets, if you will, of the new age. Oh, fuck the new age, the ascension, the new earth. And so their work, they're doing it for the greater good. They're not doing it for the money. But if they're smart, and I know many of them are smart and brilliant, is I would urge you to put your canvas with a tripod and let the camera roll. Just fucking put it on live. There are people doing it on TikTok. They're doing it on YouTube, just on Facebook. Then put some clips and put it up. I know of a particular shaman drummer who paints on Facebook, and she sells, and I've mentioned her before, she sells her work within 2 days. At the most, within 2 days. At the most. And the drums are going for $600 to $1,000. I'm trying to give you ideas right now, as if you were my personal client, as if we were sitting across from each other. So you can think of ways that can take you out of where you're at into where you want to be, to give you the freedom. You know what I mean? And that's going to be important, because somehow, some way, you have to get over your own hiccup that you're not ready, that you have nothing to offer. I just got a download for someone, like, and something I'm going to start doing at some point is cooking. And I have a passion for cooking. I'm also, as you probably know, a vegetarian. But there are a lot of people putting out beautiful food. And I feel as if people would get involved with you and love your personality and love your irreverence in food and fun. And you would actually start making partnerships with different purveyors of products and spices and salts and vinegars and oils, and I could go on. And suddenly your business would grow. You have to kind of like try to stop thinking, I need to sell a product. I just gave you an idea for someone that is going to sell a product. But sometimes the product is you. And so putting yourself out there, it's not easy, trust me. I've written a book called Recall. It's very erotic. It's very irreverent. It's actually been banned by TikTok. And it has components in it that I can't change because it deals with sacrifice. It's something that we did in all of these continents. It was a process, right, that happened to us as human beings, unfortunately. And I could go back to the Anunnaki and the influence of that and so on and so forth, but I'm not going to. What I'm going to say is this, is that it goes back to the Romans, the Celts, the Africans, the South Americans, the Asians. It goes on and on. It's a known thing. And to remove it would remove the integrity of the whole fucking book. And it's important, but it's not there to fucking titillate, because it's done with some, I would say, subtlety. However it's done. So when you create work, you need to create the kind of work you'd want to read, eat, see, paint, put on your wall. If it's not making you crazy excited, then it's not worth your time. You're wasting your time. If you are sitting there trying to figure out what could sell, right? Make sure you love it. Make sure you would want two of those things, because when it falls apart, you still want it. You'd want another one as a backup, which I've done myself, by the way. You want to make sure that whatever you choose, that's what they mean by heart-centered business. It means you have a passion for it. You could be up at 3 o'clock in the morning working on it, or promoting it, or responding to an inquiry or an order or whatever. If it doesn't keep you up at night, if it doesn't drive you with incredible euphoric bliss, then it's not the product or the pathway. It just isn't. And you have to be honest about it. You know what I mean? And let me see if there's any products. Okay. Did I answer you? I'm trying to look at what's going on here. All right. So anyway, any other questions are relevant because, but anyway, so the concept of the sacrifice you were asking, well, because what would happen if you read how the Irish saved civilization, there's a particular chapter about that. And people did it for, I mean, honestly, that's kind of a silly question. Why would they do that? Well, no shit. Why would anybody do that? It's a stupid thing to do because it's actually evil. But we just went through a ritual. I'm not even go into it, but yeah, I'm not going to touch that one because it's, but we just had a massive ritual with red heifers. I'll just say that on April 19th, and it was done by certain people. Okay, so people do weird ass shit, and you gotta, like, if you don't know what I'm talking about, then you need to go out there and do your research because you should know that, especially if you're, you know, in the world. That should be like, you should know this. I'll think of something, and then the person will answer it, which always happens to me. Oh, good. I'm glad, Mickey. What else? Let me see. It's the balance, though, so it's not beneath us, right? Sacrifice part of the universe and balance. No, sacrifice. No, I'm talking about human sacrifice. I'm not talking about sacrifice. No, there's no need to sacrifice anything. Not anything. As a matter of fact, there's no need to do a lot of things that we're doing that are cruel to animals, to people. There is no benefit to it. That's the point of why I wrote it in the book, because there's no point to it. It's pointless. It doesn't work. If it did, people wouldn't have to do it again and again and again. The nature of power is lasting power, not temporary power. Temporary power is like dyeing your roots, your gray roots, right? You know, dyeing it from being gray to black or brown. It's a temporary solution. Similarly, doing things that harm other people is temporary. That's why revolutions don't ultimately work. You should read The Anatomy of a Revolution. It's an incredible book written in the 70s. And it breaks down the anatomy of the revolution, which is the honeymoon period, the paranoid period, the fucking bloodbath period, all that crap period. Okay. And once you realize it, it doesn't work. This is why I'm really trying to help people understand that to win the new earth, we have to do it on a high frequency level, because you can't fight fire with fire. You have to fight. And in fact, you don't fight. That's the whole point. You elevate. You go to a place of stillness and you connect with the universe and you co-create, which is, because the universe is a holographic universe, you co-create a new avenue, a pathway to bring in the new earth. If you decide to, become one of these warriors in this particular timeline, you're going to loop yourself into a karmic loop that will loop you into this life, into the next life, until this kind of consciousness will create a Mad Max planet. Okay? And the irony is there are Mad Max planets as we speak right now, and that's where the next incarnation will be a frequency match for that shit. So that's where people end up. You might call it hell. I call it just frequency match to something else. It's not hell, it's just a frequency match to something lower. Yeah, so what was that book written with this time in mind? Pluto moving into Aquarius. It wasn't written with that in mind. It was just all about that particular book. Second dimension has a lower frequency. Yeah, I know. But anyway, so any other questions? Thank you. So any other questions on that? Second dimension has a lower frequency. But I mean, why would you... Well, I guess you need to talk about it, but why talk about the lower frequencies? Why don't you tell me how many frequencies do you think, how many dimensions do you think exist in other realms? That would be the question I would want to know. And why aren't we in those dimensions? And what happened? How did we fall, Written within the cycle of truth. I'm going to be very blunt with you. Write more like a man, if you don't mind. I'm being honest with you, because what you mean is the cycle of truth. There is very few levels of truth right now as we speak. In fact, truth is considered a lie and lies are considered truth. I'll give you a perfect example, actually. I'm going to give you a perfect example. Right now, the adjuster, aka John Wicks, who has his picture supposedly plastered, who's so supposedly gorgeous, is being touted as the guy who did it, who did the CON. And he's clearly, I mean, you gotta be an idiot to believe that the guy on the picture who's unmasked smiling is the same guy who did it. You can see the nose bridge, the eyes, the eyebrows. So my point is, what is truth is considered a lie, and what is a lie is considered truth. That's what we live in right now. And we've been living like that for a while, because in the 1980s, when there was a bank robbery, actually it was 1992, sorry. I just remembered because we lived in LA. There was a bank robbery. I don't know if you guys ever saw the movie Heat, but it looked like Heat. It was so insane that the father of my son and I were both in our like 20s, threw a fucking VHS tape in the machine and started recording because it was insane. We'd never seen anything like it. Never. And not since, by the way, because I don't watch those kinds of things anyway. But this particular day, it was like Heat, the movie Heat, come to life. And we were like, what the fuck? And I remember 2 men escaped. And it was off. And we knew because we were watching it live. 2 men escaped on foot with money. All of them were over 6'2". All of them. They were massive men. And they looked like professionals, like they were like special force, trained, something. And long story short, they announced that no one had survived, which was a lie. The next thing we knew, they put a picture of a man who they let bleed out. He was alive for a long time, hours, and we couldn't fucking believe it. They would not bring the ambulance. They would not let it in. And the next thing we knew, we saw a picture of the man like 2 days later on the newspaper going, blah, 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 passed away, blah, 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 and this and that. And we pulled out the guy we saw bleed out on the VHS with the guy in the newspaper. Those were not the same men at all. Completely different. And so if we hadn't had the VHS, we might have played monkey mind tricks with ourselves going, well, maybe we would have might have gaslight ourselves. But the fact is that we had it there. So it's not the first time I've seen that shit done. Let's just keep it, let's just say it. So my point to this is what is truth is a lie, and what is a lie is a truth. And this reminds me of the movie Arnold Schwarzenegger, Running Man. If you remember, the reason why I spew out movies is because there was a really cool show on Gaia.com called Hollywood Decoded, an amazing show, like fucking brilliant. And you've got to really look at some of these movies, and they're not far from, in fact, they are blueprints to deconstructing when you're being gaslit, when they're pissing in your ear and telling you it's raining. It's kind of a good thing. And you go back to them going, wait, hang on, I saw something like this during Running Man. What the fuck's going on? And you start putting it together. It's not funny, though. I understand and agree. Look at Satan, Lucifer, of any one villain we've ever known. It's all forms. Well, the thing is, I really don't believe in, I don't believe in Satan the way you think. I believe in egregores of evil. And I believe that, again, if I were you, I would read Zachariah Stitchin's books on the Anunnaki. I would read, if I were you, Billy Carson's books on these kinds, or check out his talks. He's got a lot of videos. Billy Carson, Astral Legends, David Icke, Graham Hancock. I mean, Freddie Silva. They all have different focuses, but they all come to the midpoint of agreement on certain aspects. Okay, that archaeology is a bunk, that what we were taught by the 19th century Egyptologists is bullshit, that it goes on and on and on. And the origins of us as Homo sapiens is bullshit. Darwinism is a joke. There's all kinds of things that you can look up, and then you'll understand why I think Satan is not what you think it is, because I know it isn't. It's a whole different game, and it's an egregore. So Just so you know, you may want to direct your attention to these incredible, brilliant men who are breaking the codes of entrapment. And that is going to be very important for you not to gaslight yourself and to not be chained by the rhetoric of many of these religions. Okay? Because if you believe in reincarnation, as we all do, many of us here, we've all been many religions, and religion is not the answer. I'll tell you that now. So this whole concept of Satan is not where it's at. What it is at is, believe me, I don't. It's a lot worse than that. Let's put it that way. I think Satan is like a choir board compared to some of the draconians and reptilians. Let's put it that way, in my opinion, from what I've seen and read. Thank you. Your ego is trying to do so. Okay, I'm sorry. There's no ego. I'm just telling you who to read. Okay, so clearly it's on me saying I know it all, but I do know the people who do know it all a lot, and they've been putting themselves out. And so if you're being triggered by me telling you that these are men who understand and who have translated, as Zachary Stitchens, ancient cuneiforms, ancient tablets. If that triggers you and you think you know it all, then that's your ego, not mine, unfortunately. So I guess we're not a match in frequency. Hey, good morning. How are you, Jennifer? Anyway, my tone is the tone of a badass bitch that doesn't take any shit from a guy who thinks he knows everything. Sorry. If I'm going to actually bend a knee, it'll be as someone who's actually fucking gone there, done that, if you don't mind. So if that doesn't match your step, that's good. I'm glad. Enjoy. I have very little patience with people who are arrogant. And I find that some men who are unhealed will attack women that are speaking. And the irony is I mentioned 5 men who I highly respect, but I have a very vile disrespect of weak men. They annoy the fuck out of me. And I will not let anyone lead the tone of my life. So when I give you a tone, it's because I think you're an asshole and I don't want you here anymore. I don't sit at the table and eat meals with people I don't like. This is what it is to be a badass bitch. That's just how it is. And if men get triggered, or women, because they want to play Barbie games, then I'm sorry. I'm not your frequency match. You got to keep it moving. What's interesting though is that men, certain men, because I've been there. I've been the young girl. I've been the young hottie, the maiden that had men saying, "I will tame you. I will do this. I will do that." When during the headlight moments of being a 14-year-old girl and an 18-year-old girl and going, what the fuck? I don't even want this attention. What is that? Why can't I? It's funny too. I was talking to Andromeda Flame and I was saying, this is the one thing, and you guys who know me know how pro-masculine I am. But did you notice I said masculine? And because you can't be male hating and raise a son. You can't be male hating and love a man and make love to him in your bed. You can't have those kinds of triggers. However, my biggest pet peeve is weak men who want to swagger their weight and prey on 14-year-old girls. And this is when I lose my shit. And unfortunately, the psychic energy that I have, I pick up on people's energies and I know where they're coming from. And it can be quite shocking, earth-shaking, because there's nothing I can do to prevent the harm they are about to do on innocent teenagers or children. And I think you got my drift. I think some men are so weak, they're more dangerous than any quote-unquote alpha male out there. So anyway, going back to these incredible forces who are educating us and bringing the light of knowledge forgotten knowledge, and literally forgotten knowledge. Billy Carson, I just thought of it. It's really important for us to like follow these guys. I wish I could give you names of people who are powerful. There are powerful women, lots and lots. Don't get me wrong, but they are not. It's weird too. They're not banging their drums. I'm not sure why. I mean, when I think of Marguerite Rigliosini, who's writing about the oracles of Delphi and about the Immaculate Conceptions, things of that nature, when I think of my healer, when I think of my shamans, when I think, I'm like scanning my mind, thinking, I know that Cindy Dale, if you want to follow anyone on the mastery of chakras, she's written books. One of the books is the Essential Book of Chakras. It's the size of a frickin' Bible. It's amazing. It's an incredible book. Don't get me wrong. Massive respect. And so she is a powerhouse. But I wish I could tell you of people that have gone and who are feminine, who have gone into the realms of writing the things I've just mentioned that are part of our awakening. Right now I'm working on the book Starseeds How We Fell, right? And I'm excited about it. And I'll probably have to self-publish it because I really don't want to kick rocks too long on such a book. And I might actually come to you and say, look, I'm doing not a GoFundMe, but something to that effect where, I forgot Kickstarter. Like try a Kickstarter and see if I can get that off, and running, because I'm really not interested in my fear. I'm going to tell you what my fear is. And it's not a fear. It's not a real fear. It's a concern, is to get my work in front of a publishing house and working with an editor that wants to edit all this shit out. Like that would drive me, I think I'd lose my mind. And I think a lot of us who are writers, who are creators, are not looking to get edited. We want our voices coming out. We want it to be as clean as possible, meaning edited, grammatically, this and that. But we don't want the essence of the work to be diluted to make it palatable for the collective. Some of the things that, really changed my life was reading Michael Newton's book on Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls. That's why I took his classes. I went to his program. He was dead, but with my professor. Because what I read was stuff that I hadn't read before. And it felt real to me. It felt honest to me. It felt like he really did just, deliver these hypnotherapy sessions and share with us LBL experiences of why souls had gone to this incarnation, that incarnation, this incarnation. But I do feel now in retrospect, after having done my own hypnotherapy and my own Akashic readings with clients from all over the world, my pool is way bigger because I have people in South Africa, this place, that place, okay, all over the world. So I'm getting a pool of different types of experiences, right? With that said, including Akashic readings. And what I'm finding is we've had brutal incarnations. And if it's coming in, it's because, if it's being brought to a client, it's because that client has to see it and purge it and forgive themselves. Because even though they might have never known in a, conscious way, let's call Joe. Joe never knew that he was an Anunnaki that was playing games with creating humanoids as slaves, right? And Joe never knew. But Joe, throughout all his incarnations, had issues with guilt, didn't want to really wield his power, was afraid of being powerful, but was always given a kind of magnetism that made people come to him and to want him to lead, but he would always walk away because there was something there that made him feel as if he wasn't deserving to have that kind of power. So Joe met me and I did the Akashic. And I said, Joe, you were an Anunnaki. You were actually breeding people to be slaves. You thought they were nothing. You thought they were trash. And part of the reason why you were doing that was because you really didn't actually believe that the souls that were coming into those incarnations, these sentient beings, were equal to yours. And then you became one of these humans. And you fell. So this was an example. I'm not actually telling you a real actual story. I'm just giving you an example. So, well, how would that help someone? Well, Joe would go, fuck. And I go, yeah, but you see how powerful? Look at that other life you were as a Syrian. Look at that other powerful as a Pleiadian. Look at that other life as a warrior. Oh, look at this. You were a woman. You were a healer. Oh, look, you were a high priest. Oh, look, you were in the 16th century French courts. So Joe would go, wait, well, that's not me anymore. Yeah, none of these avatars you lived through. These personalities called Giselle and Alexander and Muhammad or whatever the hell you experience, those are not you anymore. That means that the innate charisma, this innate magnetism, this ability to actually communicate to the public with ease, which is in your numbers, right? Is your destiny. And you're turning your back on it. And so, can you forgive yourself that you were that Anunnaki? Yeah. No. Can you forgive Yes, I can. Okay, good. What do you need to forgive? What do you think you need to do? And we discuss it. Because everyone's process of forgiveness is going to be a little bit different. And so now Joe can start journaling and meditating and stepping into his light and power and go, I was this, and I used power in the wrong way, and now I use it for the light. And that's ascension. And that's why the Akashic readings are important, in my humble opinion, because you have no control. None. And when I do an Akashic, usually a client will go, okay, let's do hypnotherapy. Well, yeah, no kidding, let's do that, because now, guess what? You can't play small with yourself or me, because we already know what a badass you were. And so now we're really going to go for the deal. We're going to go for all of it. And at that point, the person is able, in this case, Joe, to surrender to crazy, what you would call crazy shit. When I do hypnotherapy, people come out of it going, was that real? And I'll ask, did it feel real? Yeah. Do you think you could have made that? Are you that creative, Joe? No. Yeah, no kidding. How fast were the scenes coming? Fast. There was no hesitation. It was just coming. Yeah. Do you think if it was fake, it would be like that? It would come to you that fast? I don't know. Really? You don't know? Do you think like that typically? When you're resting, when you're in meditation, does your mind go there? Or are you thinking about the tires that need to be changed, the snow plowing, the grocery list? What happens when you're in meditation? Yeah, sometimes my mind, yeah, but are you having downloads like that? No. Bungo. So when we do the hypnotherapy, to make sure we don't have corrected downloads, I'm asking clients to sage. At the minimum, sage and call on your archangels. At the maximum, do the 4 corners above and below. You know what I mean? And I do it too, by the way. Even though when I do Akashic, I do 4 corners above and below to protect myself within a sacred space, so that whatever is being downloaded is pure. When I do hypnotherapy, I do the same. I do the 4 corners above and below, because I have to be there walking beside Joe. And Joe will say, well, I'm seeing my hand, but doesn't look human. Oh, yeah, okay. Well, what does it look like? Tell me, what color is it? And we go from there. It's extraordinary. I knew hypnotherapy was important. I knew that Akashic readings, understandings was important, because that was one way for a person to completely not have control, to edit out what they saw. Because the human mind will actually say, no, it can't be me. I was never that bad, right? It refused to see. In fact, when you do ayahuasca, you can actually refuse. You can refuse ayahuasca, say, no, I'm not watching this. No, I'm not doing this. I know this because I had clients who did it, who did the ayahuasca, who refused the message. And depending on your trauma, the Great Mother will actually shift the scene. and take you out of that and bring you to something else that's more palatable. And so I know. But my opinion on that is that you should always cannonball into these things. You should just, are you here to heal or what? And if you're here to heal, it means you got to rip off the bandages. It's never going to be convenient. You're here to heal, right? Yep. Okay, well then fucking let's do it. Now, if a client is freaking out, doesn't want to see a death or whatever, like their own, then I will totally pull them out. And there's a pranayama exercise I teach the client before we go under to shift the scene. Because some people are, they can't do it. And that's okay. Very rarely have I had a client go into a death scene anyway, because we usually, I've had like one or two, but it usually doesn't come up. It just ends. It just, onto the next scene, onto the next incarnation. It just moves from one to the other. It's pretty interesting. And in the beginning, the induction deals with childhood memory and pregnancy, being in your mother's womb. And I can't tell you how many times I've done guided meditations, Akashic readings, or hypnotherapy where the client went back to their mom going, is that what happened? And like, what was, like they'll ask their mother, is this, just to make sure, right? Because you want to get, confirmation. And 9 times out of 10, it's exactly what they experienced. It's really interesting how we are so connected and we remember. But I don't know. I think the amnesia is by design sometimes. It's almost like we can't handle it. We're so ashamed or regretful. So we jump back into an incarnation to right the wrongs. And it is such not the right thing to do anymore. It might have been the right thing to do in the last, 500,000 years. Might have been. But now, if you want to ascend, you need to just forgive yourself and forgive the others. That's it. And then from that point, then you love yourself. You try to find spots of yourself that you can love unconditionally. And it's you have to understand that that's going to be very difficult to master because you've been taught over the centuries of your incarnations not to love yourself. In fact, there was a protocol in Catholicism where it was considered that all babies were born with sin. When was the last time you held a baby in your arms? When was the last time you ever... Can you imagine somebody saying all babies are born with sin? That's sick. But that's how we came into the world. And if you were a baby out of wedlock, you were considered dirty, nasty. So you got to understand, we had some scars like that throughout our incarnations. And so now we're excavating all that shit unknowingly, knowingly. But the main thing is to basically, you don't have to go through every fucking incarnation to forgive yourself and forgive others and to love yourself unconditionally in a transcendental way. That is not easy to master because of the samskars, aka impressions from those past lives that have brainwashed you to believe that you were not worthy of love. I think that's one of the reasons why the separation with twin flames is so traumatic for certain people, some over others. Or there's a window of time where it really is so triggering because it excavates all of that feeling of not being picked, of not being chosen, of not being loved, of not feeling good enough, pretty enough, handsome enough. It's big shit. And so when the twin leaves, you're left a wreckage on the pain of abandonment. And again, your self-worth is completely fucking ripped apart. Whatever was on shreds, on sticks, whatever that you were holding on with a thread, collapses. The good news is that you will, transform from that. If you survive yourself, you will transform for that, and you will never be that hurt again. Never like that. Never again. There'll be other pains, other things, other disappointments, other losses, but that moment in pain that only the twin flame seems to be able to evoke out of other people, there's no match to that kind of pain. It's the weirdest thing. Only people who have lived this experience understand it. There are a lot of people in 3D, entrenched in 3D, who have the opportunities to meet their twin. I know I've met my twin in other incarnations where we teased each other, we fucked each other's heads up, and never came into union. We may have had sex, but we never came into union, if you get what I'm saying, because we were entrenched by the society's mores of the 18th century, 500 AD, of 240 BC, and on, and 35, my book Recall, 3500 BC for the Common Era. And it is amazing how we could meet each other and feel this and yet not self-realize the importance of these connections until now, honestly. And so everything, all the hurt, it's almost like we're coming through all the hurt of thousands and thousands of incarnations and disappointing moments and betrayals and losses and abrupt endings through death or desertion or whatever. And it all feels like it's collapsing on you completely, like an avalanche, like a snow avalanche. You're buried alive by it, and you don't know if you could ever come out of it. And thank God, many of you do. We all have. So when you try to talk to someone who is going through that, who's a twin, they know they're a twin, but they don't know the transcendental truth of this journey, and they listen to 3D muggles who tell them that it's not, that's just crazy, that's not possible, that doesn't make sense. I'm going to say something very rude, but the vulgarity is important. They've never been well laid. They've never been loved, well laid, fucked by a twin to that level of euphoric bliss. Never. Never. So how could they ever understand? And then the pillow talk of esoteric ideas. And then the laughter and the ease. And then the buddling and the cuddling. And then the fights that were just almost outer-worldly. And then the makeup and the sadness in both the twins' eyes, the regrets, and trying to repair the damage, and not realizing that the damage was from thousands of years of pain and separation, thousands. And so you're really going to think that your basic therapist or you can't even explain ayahuasca to a therapist who's never even thought of doing it, much less Bufo. How the fuck are you going to explain this to anyone but a twin flame on the journey or twin ray? It's impossible. Quite literally impossible. And some twins are so entrenched in their lifestyle that they will do everything to ensure it is buried in this incarnation. But it'll come back biting their ass in the next one. In fact, when they drop their bodies, they'll feel like, fuck, what was I afraid of? What did I do wrong? I don't understand. Why would I run from you? Because they wanted their lifestyle to be their lifestyle. And their ego is bigger than their soul. In other words, the voice of their ego is bigger, way bigger than their soul. There is no heart coherence. There are twins walking around right now that think that they're crazy. That the whole thing is crazy. It's made up. It's voodoo tata bullshit. For real. And the sad part is that they're wrong. And while we ascend, and again, it's sad to me, they will be going through the looping again in another planet that is similar to this one as we know it, but another planet that's in 2 or 3-dimensional to replay some of the shit all over again. So if you're trying to find your sanity in the common man or woman, you're sadly going to be disappointed because the answers aren't there. We're not a cult. Plato spoke about us and he heard it from others because most of these guys, Herodotus went to Egypt, they must have heard it from someone else. Okay? So there's no way we're a New Age invention. though many will try to disprove our existence. But we can't be all crazy, because most of the people I do this with, in terms of doing readings for and whatever, they're actually quite smart. They're quite successful in their careers. Some of them are well known, believe it or not, in their careers as social media content creators, as influencers, as doctors. I've had like 4 therapists tell me, I have a PhD. I've studied this shit of obsession and delusion and making shit up in people's heads. This is not it. This is completely different. I'm like, yeah, I know. I personally don't need a PhD to tell you this, but I can tell you that people with PhDs who are going through this, they know the difference between Delulu and this is not Delulu. None of us with a half a brain wanted this. In fact, most of us were doing whatever the fuck we could to cut cut the cords to a level until something hit us and went, if you go that far, it's too far. I remember I had a friend who is actually a Wicca. She's a green witch and a white witch. She actually knows her. She's actually powerful because, like I said before, voodoo works, witchcraft works. It fucking does work, because you're working with egregore energy and you're working with the elements and you're attracting. You've made a choice to play with other energies. Let's put it that way. And she gave me a spell that could actually totally. And I bought all the equipment. I was like, fucking hell, Ben, I'm done with this shit. And something said no. It was a hand on my shoulder that said no. And I never did it. And I'm glad I never did it. The despair you feel that makes you delete all the pictures and do all that. Yeah, don't do that shit. Because it's not going to do anything. And eventually they will die, or you will die. And what will you leave your children? Your children need to understand that kind of love. I remember when I watched, and I read the book actually first before I saw the movie. It's called The Bridges of Madison County. And what really struck me about it was the adult children going through her I don't know, her coffret or whatever, I'm going to say suitcase, her thing. And they came across the love letters, and they came across the camera and this and that. Suddenly, the next scene, you see Clint Eastwood and whatever the actress's name is, I forgot. But anyway, it doesn't matter. And the book was like wildfire. It came out in the 90s, I believe. It was 148 pages, thereabouts. It was a novella. And everyone was obsessed with the book. And the word twin flame was not yet, it'd been talked about in the higher spiritual realms by very intelligent people. I mentioned Plato, by the way. And but it wasn't used. It was the soulmate was the term that everyone used for each other, right? And people understood that. They understood giving up a whole life for children and sacrificing your life for something else. Saying no to love so that you could be there for your children, for example. That's the premise of the book, actually. It's this concept of this incredible love that she doesn't have I would say she doesn't have the courage to claim. I'm going to say that. And there's a part of it where she has no courage to claim it, but there's another part where it was a different timeline where what was he going to do? Ask her to leave her children behind? And the sad part is they never talk it out. There is no plan. It's a moment of impulsivity. Do it or don't. And you sense not a relief, a regret in that. And I feel as if for us in our particular timeline, we're looked at as a generation of selfish people because we will not stay in marriages that don't make us happy or marriages that bore us literally to death. Because we married for the wrong reasons. For protection, he's my best friend or she's my best friend, or what the hell, it's time to marry now. Things like that. We married for the wrong reasons. Or some of us didn't marry because it was a soul contract. Or some married because there was a karmic loop that needed to end. All of these things are real. But in our generation, or this particular timeline, because this timeline is filled with many, many generations, just obviously. And in those generations, there are many, many twin flames that met at various junctures of these, timelines, 1970s, 1960s, and so on and so forth. And these people are being asked to choose themselves. And in that, it sometimes means to be honest, because if the marriage was great, believe it or not, the twin would not have a shot in hell if the marriage was good. There would be excitement, connection, sexual desire, all of that would be there. But if the marriage was really hot, you know what I mean, where you were emotionally, physically, mentally, stretched and activated, the twin, no matter what you think, wouldn't have a shot in hell. Why do I know this? Because we've had twin flames in various of our incarnations where we never left our husband or wife. So, and sometimes it was because it was a marriage of not convenience or wealth or prestige, but for love. Here and there, rarely, but it did happen. Or, we had the duty of the children, the duty of the family. But for the most part, when I think back on us now, we're being asked to leave impossible situations, whether it be jobs or marriages or relationships that really don't serve us. And in some cases, you leave, but you might actually go back to your high-level soulmate, because the lessons had to be learned separately. And that's also why many of us go through separations with our twin flames, because the lessons, it's almost like you activate this, that, and the other. You trigger this, that, and the other in each other as twin flames. For example, you go your separate ways for a year, and then you come back recalibrated with a new understanding, a new appreciation of the relationship. In other words, you fall in love even deeper than before. That's why I really don't believe it when people say, I don't care about him, her anymore. Because then is that a twin flame? Because what happens when you're in a twin flame journey or in that kind of consciousness, you will get angry. Don't get me wrong. You will try to cut cord cut. Like I said, we've all tried it and failed. Trust me. And we weren't willing to pay the full price of completely cutting them out, because we knew that it could reverberate across timelines and separate us for another 1,000 years. And really, the ascension is the goal here. Whether we come into union in these bodies, in this incarnation, isn't really the name of the game in this timeline. The name of the game is to look at all your triggers that your twin has brought to you, because no one else could bring it to you, only your twin. And getting to a place in your consciousness where you get radically fed up with your own bullshit, to see that what you thought you had healed, you didn't fucking heal. You just learn how to suppress it somehow, some way. Because your twin called bullshit on your supposed healing, your childhood trauma or whatever the hell it was, your father wound or mother wound, and suddenly here it is, reincarnated in front of you, and your twin brought it to you. Like a cat bringing a dead rat as a gift. And here you are going, what the fuck? And that's ascension shit. And so when the universe doesn't want you together, and this is, I know for a fact, nothing you can do can keep you together. But when the universe wants you together, you're bumping into the cafes, you're bumping it, or you're still living together, or you're constantly bumping into each other. Or you're seeing their birth date everywhere, or you're seeing numbers that are connected to them or you together, or whatever. Hopefully you're paying attention to numbers, because numbers is a massive part of the twin flame journey. Massive. Ascension journey, twin flame, starseed messages, all three. I'm not joking. So when you pay attention, the universe will hammer you like you wouldn't. Like it's insane. You'll see their name. They may have the most unusual name. I actually have a picture of a street sign, because my twin was initiated in India, so he had a Sanskrit name. And I'm up in the middle of the fucking mountains in Northern California, minding my own fucking business. And in the middle of nowhere, there's his name. On the streets, I'm like, no, please stop. And I took a picture of it. Because you can't make that shit up. I just did, in fact, I was talking to you earlier about the Akashic readings, right? I sent it to Andromeda Flame. The client had an Irish name with my twin flame's birth date, the month and the day. It's the universe saying, you're not crazy. This is real. You're not crazy. This is real. Don't leave. Don't leave. Don't break up. Don't ghost. So when people start saying, oh, well, I've been told to leave. Why are you leaving? Well, I don't know. I think maybe we need some space so we can grow. Grow where? Well, I don't know. I mean, we're having arguments. And I just feel like if we had more space, we could, eventually get together. Do you know what happens when clients do that who are twin flames? They will try and think, okay, well, let me separate. It'll just be 6 months. Turns into 3 years, 5 years, 6 years. Why? Because the universe makes it fucking impossible to get back together. How? Right? How? Because suddenly the plane tickets that would have been $650 for a one-way is now $1,700. Because their job got a promotion and now they can't leave because it's $20,000 more per year, and they can't leave, and neither can you. Because somebody in your family is now dying and you need to take care of them and you can't leave. You see what I'm saying? If you have the opportunity to be with your twin and the universe is not fucking with you but supporting you and being with them, and you're having fights, as long as they're not, you're not putting each other's heads through the wall, obviously. I mean, I would hope that we all understand this when I say this, right? That you're being asked to maybe take a break in an Airbnb or a motel for the weekend. Okay, that's what you're being asked to do, maybe. You're being asked to journal what you're feeling. And to hand it to your twin, say, please read this. This is how I feel. And hopefully coaching your twin to do the same so you can hear what they feel. Maybe even reading it out loud to each other. And agreeing to disagree with civility, with respect, not yelling and screaming and going apeshit. But trust me, when you decide to pack your shit and leave, because they did something, flirted, fucked, whatever, you better work it out and figure out why. Why would you sabotage a relationship like that? Why would you fuck up a perfectly good relationship? And let me just say, when they do have sex, if they have sex with someone else, I can assure you that they were either high, stoned, or stupid. Because they didn't want to feel unworthy of you. Because you trigger them in such a way that only you get away with you. You're probably saying shit to them they've never been told. And they feel like they can never match what you deserve. Nor can they explain it to themselves why they are as they are, or why they won't look at their shadows. So they will go and get high or drunk and do with a bimbo, male or female, and come back to you because you'll feel it physically and you'll know. And they will deny it, but you'll know. And eventually the truth will come out at some point by hook or crook. And you'll have to have the discussion of why would you sabotage something powerful? Then, of course, your jealousies will be triggered. And you'll get pissed off because they're cheated. And then you have to kind of remember transcendentally, not to accept them to ever be a cheater. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that you have to look at them and go, what am I fucking... Before we met, we were fucking different people. In other incarnations, we were fucking other people. Don't ever fucking do that shit again. But I need to ask, why would you sabotage us? Why would you sabotage us? By the way, that never happened to me. Just in case you're trying to figure it out. These are hypotheticals that I'm giving you because it's what I've learned from my clients. I have a client right now who... He's coming back to her, and he's gotten married to another woman, had a kid, blah, blah, blah. I mean, men and women will do some crazy shit when they don't want to win. Trust me, self-loathing is a hell of a machine. Because what happens is people will actually choose other people that they're it's easy to lose them. In other words, they'll marry someone that is somewhat boring, that's not a match. The sex is, it's kind of like bad pizza. It'll feed you, but it won't, there's no pleasure in it. And people will do this shit. And they'll stay and they'll have kids with these people. And you're like, I don't get it. Like, we had the world and you want to, like, what is this about? It's because, and I can tell you what it's about. It's because the self-loathing is on levels you can't even imagine. And maybe you see it in yourself, so you should be able to understand. But for them, it is easier to be with someone who will never destroy them if they die. This is why you hear people who will be married for 20 fucking years, right? And start dating at 9 months after their husband or wife is dead. Because it wasn't that bad. Because you see, you'll hear stories like that. And yeah, sure, they're still mourning. They're mourning a best friend. They're mourning someone they love, someone who gave them kids. But they'll start dating in them. I'm going to tell you something. When it's a twin flame union or twin ray, yeah, they're not fucking ever marrying again. They're not even dating. They're not going anywhere with anyone for a long, if it's a young woman or a young man, for a long, long time. Could be 10 years before they ever consider stepping out again. That's twin flame. That's twin ray. And see, this is what people don't understand. So when you get triggered with the jealousy, you can't get jealous. And here's why. Because it's been there, done that. So so you're jealous. So sit with that. But then the conversation has to be transcendental. It has to be, why would you sabotage us? Not me. You're not going to say me. Why would you sabotage us? Why would you fuck up one of the best things we've ever had? We're a power couple and you're going to squander it. Are you that afraid of how incredible you and I are together? And those are the kinds of conversations I'd rather you have than you going into a very 3D consciousness of trying to figure out if the sex was good. Trust me, if the sex was good, they would continue it for quite some time and you'd never hear about it. They'd be very careful not to fuck that up because they'd want it to continue and keep you on the side if it was that good. And typically, it isn't. This is why the average cheater and specifically in twin flames, not other people, in twin flames, typically they have an addiction problem. They're high. They're drunk. And so they'll do things on an impulsive, out of anger, out of sadness, out of just, what that curiosity, whatever. Typically, okay? But I do know that there are twins who are sober as a judge, who have sabotaged these relationships. They're ensconced in 3D, number one. Number two, they have narcissistic characteristics. They've had trauma as children. I think you know what I mean by trauma, right? I don't have to spell it out. And so for them, trauma and drama is something they're used to. So they create, so you could have a peaceful fucking month and a second month and it's too much for them. They have to have something. They're used to trauma. In fact, you got to find out how their parents were fighting. Were they fighting like cats and dogs? Or were they fighting with civility? At worst, calling each other names, you'd hear as a little, they would hear as a little, at worst. You're a bitch, you're an asshole. Okay. And it lasted for 20 minutes and it was over. Okay, that's okay. And then they apologize or whatever. Okay. People did that. But fights that would last for hours, cops being called to the house, some would get physically harmed, right? They'd see it. Or not. Not everyone who goes insane for 3 hours is going to physically harm their spouse, just on a side note. However, the cops were being called. It was an occurrence. There was alcoholism. There was addiction. There was cheating. You got to ask yourself, you better know how they fought, where did they learn how to fight that way? Let me put it that way. Where did they learn how to sabotage relationships? Well, from their parents. So you need to know the details. You know, like I'll give you an example with my parents. They never fought in front of us. They fought. Don't get me wrong, but they never fought in front of us. We'd hear them. It wasn't good. It lasted an hour. We'd hear our mother cry, but he never laid a hand on her. The cops never came. You get the picture. So the fighting was what I would call somewhat civil, okay, within a marriage based, from the 20th century, if that makes sense. So you got to where did they learn this behavior? Because it's not something that is yours. What they're doing is they're recreating something from their childhood and they're bringing that shit to your door. And you need to disentangle the looping karmic issue that is not even theirs. It doesn't even belong to them. They've been it became normal from growing up around this kind of shit. The other thing is silence. Some parents didn't fight at all. I've heard people say that. Some parents fought at zero. There was no passion. They never saw affection between their parents. They never saw kisses between their parents or hugs or cuddles or this or that. And that's quite unhealthy. So they would never see their parents as parents who happen to be man and woman, sexual beings in their own right, and seeing a prototype of what is healthy in a relationship. They never saw that either. So if all of these things you know about your twin, then you can actually fix the problem by having discussions, by changing the patterns. This is why some people meet each other and they go from a very cold, unloving, where the word love, I love you is never said, and they fall madly in love with their twin who says, I love you every day, every moment. It's fucking little Post-it notes everywhere. It's such a contrast to this emptiness that they lived as children with their parents. But you have to find out. You have to know. And then you have to be honest about how you were raised. Let's be honest. And you have to look at how did that impact? How do I fight now with a person who I love? Am I playing out my mother and my father's marriage now with a person who I love? Am I playing out my mother and my father's marriage? You should be asking yourself those questions. And unfortunately, there are women who are divorced or never married, abandoned by a father, right, or a mother, but mostly a father. I'm just going to go there because we need to go there. And she raises you guys or you with hating the masculine or hating the most important person in your life, which is your father. Now, in some cases, the father deserves it. I'll be honest. But in some cases, it wasn't deserved. And because there are women out there who are preventing fathers from having relationships with their children out of just pure fucking meanness and spite, which is a big fucking no-no. Don't fucking ever do that to your kids. Never. Right. Which is a big fucking no-no. Don't fucking ever do that to your kids. Never. There are marriages that end so badly that the trauma of that creates a fear of being abandoned and treated like that. So there's a very big knee-jerk reaction of being so sensitive to the fear of being abandoned and betrayed that you'll start setting up sabotaging situations to test them, to fuck with them, and this and that. The thing about these relationships is we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to sit down and deconstruct how we were raised, why we would sabotage something that could be so sweet, so easy. You could literally have it all. Why? You have to look at yourself as well. Because in yourself could be, and this is not the mirror trick, okay, because I hate that fucking thing. But meaning I don't like saying, oh, you're mirroring your twin. You're not always mirroring your twin. Sometimes your twin is an asshole, period, end of story. That's it. Sometimes you are, okay? You got to be honest. Sometimes you're the one fucking up. Believe me, I was the asshole sometimes. He was. we certainly like played ping pong with that shit quite often. But ultimately, it's also realizing as the feminine that you were born to be the feminine, to be the high priestess, and the high priestess has the wisdom, knowledge, and patience to calm the divine masculine, or to bring a broken and wounded masculine to his divinity by bringing him slowly to his shadows, and to let him know, no matter what, I will always love him. Like, you're not divinity by bringing him slowly to his shadows, and to let him know, no matter what, I will always love him. Like, you're not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. And that's going to be very important in the journey. Thank you, my love. Yeah, 1000% facts. It's a lot, you know. That is perfect advice. Thank you, my love. So that's where I'm coming from with this journey. Okay, we have to realize that we can be in the plate. Like, for example, I'll give you an example of my own personal. When my father died, I never seen a person die before. So when I saw my father died, I think I was like 21. Okay, I'd never seen a human being die, and we were very close family. We were okay. I'd never seen a human being die, and we were very close family. We were fucked up family, but we were very close. Believe me, no family is perfect. And so in watching my father die, that pain was so intense, it was crystallized. And I realized that nothing could ever hurt, well, at least at that time, nothing could hurt me that badly ever again. But the problem with that is that I ended up taking up I would push the father of my son, who was also 21, I would push him to leave me because I was becoming self-destructive. I would push him to leave me because I was becoming self-destructive. I had not realized that to watch him die and all of that happen, and the dynamics with my family after he died, right? The trauma that it left, it was unbelievable. I was sabotaging my relationship with the father of my son. And I was acting out. But you know, again, this is 1980s. No one's talking like that. No one's really talking like that on a mass scale like we are today. And so I didn't have the support to realize what I was doing. Now, of course, I could see it. And so what I needed was a pause button. I needed to take some time out for myself to grieve properly. And my husband at the time did not know how to tell me. He was telling me, you're not grieving. And I felt harassed. Like, he's fine. He's doing great. It's like, no, but you need to grieve and you're not grieving. I don't understand. Why aren't you grieving? There was a wisdom in what he was asking me, and I resented him for it, even though he was wise. And so what I need to explain to you is that when you're going through something massively hard, the death of a parent, the death of a sibling, your dog or cat, I kid you not. I don't know why people are ashamed that the grieving for an animal is as hard, sometimes harder, than a parent or a sibling or other relatives. Make sure that you give yourselves proper space so that you don't sabotage the very relationship that means the world to me or to you, you know? Because if you do that, there's damage that's going to be done that's going to take a long time to repair. And rather than repair something that could have been avoided, it's called preventive care, right? The preventive care for you is to give yourself space and to give yourself boundaries and them and say, look, I really love you. I'm triggered like you wouldn't believe. I don't know what I'm capable of. I can't be here for you. Like, I want to be, but I think I need a week in a motel, or so I need some space. And it's not because I'm leaving you. It's not because I want to leave you. It's because I can't give you what you need. I wish I could. I fucking wish I could, but I can't. And I might need to spend some time here and there every other weekend elsewhere so that I can, not blow our relationships to smithereens because I'm not even consciously aware I'm lashing out at you. I'm using you as a spiritual punching bag. And those kinds of things are not weakness, they're strength, because once you expose your vulnerability to your twin, to your partner, to a high level soulmate, whatever, you give them such a gift. And the gift you're asking them is, give me space and give me like patience. And when I'm ready, I'll let you know. In fact, I'll call you and say, I need a hug. Can I come over? Like I wanted to spend the weekend at the hotel, but now I don't want to. I want to be with you. Or can you come to the hotel and be with me, spend the night with me? I need you now. And hopefully you have an advanced connection with a high-level soulmate or twin where that would be not a problem. But I can tell you that many times, well, not many, but a few times, my twin and I had to get a hotel because we were so fucking triggered. One day, it was a whole weekend. And one time, and I looked back on it, and it was important, because the level of anger is so intense that you're like, I think this will be an all-nighter if I don't leave. So I'm going to leave. I love you. Or it's not even I love you. I'm slamming the door. And then you call him and say, I'm okay. I'm at this hotel. I'm doing this, that. I'm not kidding. I'm not joking. Sometimes one of you has to leave the fucking building because it's the healthiest thing. And then suddenly you'll plan a trip on a weekend, mountain getaway or beach getaway for the weekends together. I mean, that's the level of seesaw energy. And I keep bringing up, and I think it's probably the best example of twin flames gone wrong, but it could have been great if it wasn't for all the pressures. And it's Liz Taylor and Richard Burton. Best example of twin flames. Couldn't live with each other, couldn't live without each other, couldn't live with each other. It's not like they didn't try. But the alcoholism, here we go with addiction. The alcoholism was a bitch. It wasn't so much the paparazzi as the alcoholism. You know what I mean? That's what took them out. Thank you for saying, because my dog now, when I lose him, I won't want to live anymore. I hope you do. I hope you do. I hope you do. But you have to understand that grief is interesting. Grief is really a double-edged sword, because grief will actually set it up so that you keep the energy of the soul, in your case the dog, trapped here. So it's not to guilt you, it's to tell you that you need to celebrate when your dog is finally ready to drop its body, and you need to try to realize that your dog was there, and he might actually, believe it or not, and this has happened, incarnate again to be with you again in different form. And if you keep grieving his form as it was before, he dropped his body, you're going to miss out on him incarnating again to be with you once again. Trust me. Trust me. In fact, there's a girl on TikTok who actually talked about her heart horse, her dream horse, and it died, right? And then it said that it would come back, right? And then it said that it would come back, right? It would come back as a golden horse. Well, it came back as a palomino. It actually happened. And she's working with an animal communicator, a psychic, and sure enough, that was the horse. So, for example, like, don't limit yourself. Yeah, I mean, trust me. I had my heart cat, right? When me and the father of my child was, we were very early, 22, I think, or 23. Then we had our cat, Alexander the Great Pleiades Neptune, which I mentioned in the book Recall. And he was our heart cat. He was our battle lion. He was amazing. There was nothing like it. He died of fucking... it damn near fucked us up, because then after that it took 3 cats, and even 3 cats couldn't compare to Alexander the Great. And we should have been more patient, because eventually we would have found him back. To be honest though, we'd worked very hard for him not to ever incarnate as an animal ever again. And some of you might say, well, animal is better than human, and I would agree, but we wanted him to transcend and to have other experiences, and to incarnate as a human. So that's what we kept visualizing, that he would not come back to have other experiences, and to incarnate as a human. So that's what we kept visualizing, that he would not come back as a cat. So it's no wonder we weren't looking for him. For example, you saw that girl. Yes, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, you gotta think of it on a transcendental level. That's the kind of grief, I don't know, I make it through. Of course you would. You have to. Mine asked me for time and space, so separated, and it's been a year, and we still don't talk. See, that's the problem with separation. Time and space. I'm going to tell you something that I find damaging about today's psychiatry, psychology, and I'm not supposed to say, but I don't give a shit, is that a lot of these therapists, I have a friend who lived in a house in South Pasadena with her musician husband. They were separated, and her daughter, who was 14. Okay? And she went into counseling therapy, all three of them. And the therapist did something very fucked up. She said, I think it's for it, you should leave, meaning the mother, my friend, you should leave. So she did. Because, it's a therapist telling her that. Maybe I should leave. Well, what happened later on is that her husband, her ex, was a pothead, an alcoholic. And her 14-year-old girl was running around, and she, unbeknownst to her, because she was in a roommate situation, and her 14-year-old girl was raped because she wasn't under that roof of that house. So I want you guys to start making your own fucking decisions. Wasn't under that roof of that house. So I want you guys to start making your own fucking decisions, okay, about whether or not you need space. And a lot of people think that space means I just need to heal on my own. Do you want this relationship, or do you want it to end permanently? Be honest. Just be honest. If you want the relationship to end, then say so. Don't say I need space. Because in saying I need space, you could actually stay a while with your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, whatever, and keep the apartment with your beloved, your twin. And then come back and go, I'm feeling better. I think we need more connection with nature. I think we need more meditations together. But this idea that you can heal separately when you're together, meaning if you're in proximity, then to take down the relationship and tear it down with your own hands is a self-destructive mode. If like I said, I've already illustrated, when the universe doesn't want your ass together, believe me, shit will happen and you'll be in shock. Like suddenly, I'll give you an example. I had to fly in to be with my mom every other week in Las Vegas. I had to take care of my son who was in a car accident. Shit like that was happening. Like the universe didn't want us together. It was quite obvious. And he wanted to come back in. And I was like, no, my mom's dying. I can't. I got to take care of her. I can't do it. And we live in a one bedroom. At the time, we lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. It was impossible. Fucking 4 people, a dog and a cat. No. And it was, so the universe will set you up to make sure you're not going to be together. When a person decides to leave, which is what originally happened with my twin, because there was issues and I won't go into it. It's personal. But hopefully it'll help you. So you don't fucking do that shit. But I remember he said, blah, blah, blah. And I went, are you sure? Because I don't think that's a good idea. And he went, no. And I said, I don't think we're going to see each other again. And well, we did, obviously. But the point is, we didn't see each other for 3 years. 3 fucking years. Because one thing after another would prevent. The fact that you're not talking to each other anymore means that other people who don't know what this is have influenced her heart coherence. They've blocked her heart. And I know that if it's a twin, she thought of you. If it's a twin, if it really is, then she's dreamed about you. She's seeing the numbers. She's thought about you, and she's trying to suppress it. And her friends are going, what's wrong with you? Why can't you get over him or her? What's wrong with you? And they have no fucking idea what they're doing. They're what we call COCK blockers, okay? To be blunt. And it's fucked up. It's actually fucked up. And it's sad that you guys don't talk. It's really, really sad. So I don't know what else to say to you on that end. It's, do you have any questions on that? Because first of all, make sure it's a twin. Secondly, you have to ask yourself, I mean, I know that when I first met my twin, to be fair to your situation, but we didn't just break up. See, that's the thing. It was a separation. It was a divine appointment that was meant to slip out of each other's hands for the right purposes. I was 18, he was 33, I've said this before, and he gave me my mala, made me a vegetarian, talked to me about the Bhagavad Gita, gave me a mantra, went off into Switzerland, took a lover, and we had never had sex, so took a lover, and then moved into, we had the pact, the kiss. This is why I did a video that went viral called, the kiss, because it's, every twin flame knows what I'm talking about when I talk about the kiss, every one of them. And every kiss after that is compared to that kiss with your twin. No one else can match that kiss. No one. But anyway, so that happened. We still talked back and forth. And eventually I met my husband, and I didn't want to talk to him, honestly. It was like, no, done. So because I understand how the universe works and how portals open and close, I realized that we weren't supposed to be together. We were both extremely strong personalities. I would have had 5 or 6 children with him. He would have been out cheating. He would have been out playing. He was when he was young, he was an absolutely extraordinary looking man. He was brilliant, and he was a scoundrel. He was irreverent. He was brilliant, and he was a scoundrel. He was irreverent, and we weren't going to make it under that, because I would have put foot to ass, and it would have probably gotten ugly. So with that said, both of us had to mellow in our incarnations separately. And then 30 years later, literally 33 years later, we faced each other at the airport, and we both saw how the world had fucking torn us to shreds compared to how we were at 18 and 23, which is a truth. Torn it. I mean, we look good, don't get me wrong, but it was like this feeling of the world had kicked our ass. We had scars that would show through our eyes. Let's put it that way, which is normal. I mean, if you come out at the age of 54, for example, right, and your eyes are still blank, yeah, I don't know what you are. You're either a robot, a soulless body, an avatar, or you're a psychopath. Because if you've lived a life, right, and you've seen people die that you loved and things like that, it's going to show in your eyes. Some things. And what was interesting is, as we came into union, we literally shed 15 years. It was insane. That's the other thing about twin flames I forgot to mention. You look absolutely fucking, if you're pretty, you're fucking gorgeous. If you're handsome, you're stunning. If you're beautiful, you're fucking outerworldly. Like, people go, like, you'll stop traffic. There's something about the twin flame connection where it makes you so glowy, beautiful, charismatic. You walk together on the streets, people turn around and stare. And that's something that is a twin flame mark. And does it happen to everyone? I don't think so. And I think part of it is because they still haven't done all the work. But when you start doing the work, the 4D work, which I talk about, which is, to be fair to many of you, my twin was 4D consciousness. He was quoting Sanskrit and then translating to English. Okay, so he was like advanced on that level of consciousness and understanding. I was 5D though, and he was 4. But there was this slow energy of savoring each other after that many years of separation. And there was this incredible gratitude. And the healing was unreal, how we started looking. It was unreal. And this is, so when people start looking like shit and they tell me it's a twin flame journey, I know that it's bullshit. I know it is. There's no way. The only time you look like shit, to be honest, is in separation. That's when you start looking like shit. Like the grief, the separation, it looks like you need a year's sleep, because it is a heavy, heavy energy from the separation. But when you're together, you look amazing. Not the other way around. When people look amazing after they've left their twin, 2 things are going on. Either the twin was massively toxic and it is a twin and it can happen, or this is for you to empower yourself and to get into your mojo. And then you can come back to your twin with new confidence, new rules of engagement, and hopefully, but if it continues that you look bad with your twin, then, and if it is your twin, you know it is, then I suggest that you better listen to that sign, because that's not a good sign at all. It means that that person's draining your energy. They're not good for you. They're toxic, and that's the end of it. Because you should look fantastic. I don't care if all you do is have sex for the weekend or you hang out and have a tea. I don't care if all you're doing is talking on the phone. Something will be shining through your eyes and your skin, and you'll have a bounce in your step, and people will say, wow, you look good today. Like, and you spoke to your twin on the phone. I'm not, it's that simple. Another thing that's interesting, which I should bring out, is spiritual awakening started at 16, then life ran me through. I hear you, Michelle. My soulmate still calls me from jail. Can the records show future timelines with twin or soulmates? It can. It can, if it wants to. I mean, you know, you're talking about the Akashic records. It can if it wants to. You have to understand the Akashic record keepers will send, and maybe this is my relationship with them, to be honest with you. You have to understand all of us are different for a good reason. Like, there's a dentist that's good with this, but they're not good with caps. There's another, you know, there's, I don't know, they're designers of shoes that make shoes that fit your feet, but not mine, you know, that kind of shit. So with my relationship with the Akashic keepers, I will let them tell me. Yeah, I don't say, oh, I want that book. I'm not that rude. I let their drop the light codes so that and I trust that the lives that I'm being shown are very important. One of the questions I'll ask is, how do they fall? How did they lose their consciousness? How did they get into 3D? What happened? How did it begin? And they'll show me stages of that falling. Sometimes they'll show me something very serious that that they want me to see that caused the fall. Sometimes, like I said, this particular client with the 12, you know, the numbers of my twin, which was his email had the numbers of my, you know, the month and the day of my twin's birthday. He didn't fall the way some of my clients fell. Me and my twin fell from a betrayal. We were lied to. And it started a series of events that kept us looped for at least 50 to 60,000 years. I'm not joking. I mean, and it could be more. And that's how we fell. And so we've had a lot of incarnations on this planet, but we also had a lot of incarnations on other planets. Some, as a matter of fact, I was doing an Akashic reading for someone, and there was a particular yellow race of people that we were, and I mean yellow, like pale yellow, long white hair, gold eyes, like a person that has albinoism, you know, like that. But we had the gold eyes. It was not anything genetic. It was we were sentient beings. And I did an Akashic, and there I saw it. And then I did a hypnotherapy, and boom, this client came up with the same. I was like, holy shit. So this is a race of people. I'm not sure if they're still around or not. But for example, that happens. I had a client who I did an Akashic reading for her husband, and he came up, and they came up together getting married in Atlantis. I mentioned it again and again, but in Atlantis. So every once in a while, I'll have a twin come through, and I'll know if it's a twin. I usually don't tell the client because I want the client to tell me. Why? Because I don't want to. I ask a lot of questions with a client. Like, I'll tell them everything, but then I'll ask them, which life do you think is the most important life? I want them to tell me. I want them to ferret out why. And when I get the spirit animal downloads, I'll ask them, what spirit animal most resonated with you? Why? And recently, I got a couple clients where the spirit animal literally morphed from one animal to another, to another, to another. And each one had a symbol that meant something that was very important for the client. For example, you know what I mean? I'll give you an example. So one client had an owl, a black owl that turned into a black wolf that turned into a black bear. What does that mean? It means wisdom. You come from wisdom. You can see things from a high point in the silence. In the night, when you cannot see, you can see more than you're not giving yourself credit in seeing the black wolf, Black wolf is a pack animal. It protects its own. It needs time to recalibrate alone, but it always comes back to take care of the elders, of the young ones, and so forth. It is a caretaker. It is loyal. It mates for life. The bear is power. It's just brute force power. And so that's the symbolism. There's more symbolism, much more. I mean, you can look it up: bear medicine, owl medicine, and wolf medicine. But that came up. Black. Why black? Well, black is a color of co-creation. It's the abyss. There's a guided meditation that Dr. Joe Dispenza has on his Becoming Supernatural, episode 1, 18 minutes before it ends, that particular show. He has an abyss guided meditation. And in that, I think we're going into the 9th dimension. And there's the black abyss. So for whatever reason, we think of black as darkness. Well, I mean, it is. But from there comes everything. The piercing of light. It's interesting, I think. So, I mean, could I ask, tell me about the twin flame? Yeah, I could, but they might say, yeah, well, that, we understand, but this is not a dog and pony show. This is about your ascension, and we don't give a fuck what you want. Here's what we're going to give you. And that does happen. I'm not joking. I feel like it's, they make me laugh. They're irreverent, but they want you to ascend, you, not you and your twin, you, because if you can get the grappling to get up to the Himalayan mountain to the top, and your twin can't come out of 3D, your ability to ascend will help and catapult them to your side. One of you has to make it. And some of you will make it together. That's why if you guys can live together, stay together, figure it out together, read the books. One of the things I will share with you, one of the things that had us bound was we took walks every day together, long walks, an hour, okay, in nature. The second thing, we'd listen to audible books every fucking morning and night, or Gaia, or something that was going to make us understand ourselves and each other with more compassion, okay, for ourselves and each other. I mean, Eckhart Tolle would be played at 6:30 in the morning while he was making me coffee, for example. And would be played at 6:30 in the morning while he was making me coffee, for example. And we would put it on pause and discuss it and analyze it. I wish a relationship like that for all of you, where all of you are listening to books, all of you are sharing books, reading books out loud. I mean, I have videos of him with he doesn't even know I'm videotaping, and he's reading a book to me. And he's saying, do you get that? I go, yeah, I get that. Go ahead and continue. And he's like, okay. And he's reading this book, this, a couple pages, and I've got him on video. I mean, I hope that you guys develop relationships like that where you're sharing esoteric ideas with your partner. I mean, what the fuck are we doing if you're not having tantric lovemaking that lasts a fucking half a day, if not the whole day, if not the whole weekend? Things like that. I wish that for you, but it's something that you have to bring into being. You have to articulate into being. It's your responsibility to create that. Just like you have a child, it's your responsibility to have a relationship with your child. You know what I mean? I mean, a real one. And not superficial relationship. You know what I mean? How is your day at school? Fine. Okay. You want some McDonald's? I mean, that's a relationship. I don't think so. But it has to, you got to put the effort in. And reading and walking, I'm not joking when I tell you that. Reading and walking is going to totally get you in the right place. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? It's going to get you into a place of beauty and connection and deep intimacy. And intimacy isn't always sexual, as you well know. I know you know that. It's the intimacy of silence. It's the intimacy of just being in each other's arms and not having to have a end goal, or listening to something, or facial massage or massages, reflexology, things of that nature, doing things together. So it's really, really cool. This journey made me and my twin emotionally numb. That's bizarre. That is bizarre. I wonder what happened. That is very, very bizarre. That's so, that makes me sad for you, because I would think that if it's making you emotionally numb, and you know it's your twin, right? You know, for like, if I bet you $100,000, you would bet that money knowing you're gonna win. I mean, I'm not kidding, because a lot of people have been told that they're in a twin flame journey, and they're not. They're not. It's a high level soulmate. You know what I mean? And that doesn't mean that it's less. Believe me, trust me. But it's different. It's completely different. And because this concept of numb feels like a high level soulmate to me personally, but I don't know you, nor have I done a reading for you, so I can't vouch for it. But let me just say this. That's what I went through with my high level soulmate. We got numb. We couldn't even talk to each other. We didn't even know what to say. My twin, that never happened. Not even in our worst fights, our separation, our fucking hanging up on each other, shit like that. Our silences, calm, silent. We weren't upset. We were just calmly silence each other because we wanted the space for ourselves. Once we got on the phone, we were never numb. But in my high level soulmate, yeah, we were numb. So I need you to probably, figure this out. Trust me, it's not a flex. Sometimes people confuse high level soulmates where there's massive karma. We all have karma, every single one of us, tons of karma. Karma with our twin, that's for sure. Karma with our parents, of course, you know that. And karma with a high level soulmate. So the volatility of a relationship with a high level soulmate, if you on paper may look like a twin flame. But unless this man, I'm assuming it was a man or a woman, brought you to heights of incredible learning and healing, then the numbing is more of your contract's over. It's over. Because I can tell you, my twin, and it's not just me, a lot of us, none of us will ever say that we ever felt numb. I think we wished we felt numb, because then it wouldn't hurt so much, to be honest. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, and we were not numb after them. One of my exes is more like a family member now. Yeah, that's what happens. My ex was like my family. He was like my sibling. He was like my brother. He was my son and him. They were my boys. My kids. And it's weird because we were at the same age. But I still love him. My high level soulmate. I've had a lot of incarnations. In fact, my high level soulmate and I talked about incarnations we had. We had a lot of wonderful incarnations, and some of them were kind of oops. But most of them were great. But with my twin, they were very much highly sexually charged and karmically charged. And the reason I say karmically is, I'll give you an example. I was literally a nomadic gypsy. I kid you not. And he was a Capuchin monk. I'm not sure if it was in England or France or Ireland. I'm not sure. I get a sense Irish because there's a very big connection. But I'm not sure, so I'm not going to... But I was a gypsy. And I'm not surprised I was a gypsy, to be honest. But we never were lovers. But the karma that kept us separated and attracted and repulsed and attracted and repulsed, that was intense. That was a lot. And he was a monk, so nothing was going to happen. This particular monk was not going to do shit. Let's put it that way. I mean, monks, I don't want to go there, but suffice it to say, he was not one of those monks that was going to step out of the monastery and do shit. And I was trying to entice him. It reminds me of the book, The Thornbirds, except I didn't get there. Anyway, so that was one intense, but many of the incarnations, like geisha, I'm not going to say geisha, but Japanese woman. He was a lord of some kind. He was a Egyptian priest. I was a concubine of some kind. I could go on and on and on and on. In other past lives, on other planets. And I could go on. I mean, I'm not here to bore you, but the thing about the twin flame is that numb is definitely not part of that journey at all. And if you think I'm wrong, let me know. But and I want to argue with it. But what I'm saying to you is, all the clients I've talked to all over the world, I'm not kidding, every continent you could imagine, Numb is not the word. Numb is, though, high-level soulmate. That I will say. And it's because contract is over. That's it. Does that, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Let me see. Yeah, I hear you. Tony, do you think some of us get stuck here because we can't get out of the karmic wheel? Actually, yes, it's exactly why we get stuck here, because the karmic wheel is the inability. Okay, here's what I was able to understand for myself, and maybe this will help. Once we were in separation, right? And it hurt. We were on the second year of separation. We were talking at that point. So we were technically in union, but not physically. There were all kinds of circumstances I discussed. However, it still hurt. The separation was hurting. However, from the time we didn't talk, right, the first year, what I realized is that as long as I wanted this union only in this incarnation, knowing what I know about incarnations, knowing what I know about future incarnations, at some point I said, in this life, and I did a video on that, in this life or the next, I surrender. That's what was my mantra to the universe. In other words, I was no longer working to be in you and my twin in this incarnation. I was working to plant the seeds for the next incarnation, or the next incarnation after that, or 1,000 incarnations out. I got to that level of such acceptance that even though it hurt, I accepted the fact that we may not be in union in this life, and I had to be okay with it. In fact, I had to embrace it with all my might, that if this was for the greater good, then let me embrace the greater good of not taking this incarnation as the end-all be-all of all my incarnations, not to put this incarnation as Tony on a pedestal above all. That if we could be in union in the next life, that was good for me. Or in 1,000 years, I would take it. And so that transcendental acceptance is what actually drove us back together. But believe it or not, there were two aspects that happened simultaneously. Once I really upped my mission. I started talking about twin flames because I was disgusted by what I was seeing on the internet, right? A lot of bullshit. And because I could tell people you can't talk about the twin flame. You've only been in it for 1 year, and suddenly you're going to start fucking talking about it. On that, it doesn't make sense to me. It's one cycle. You've only seen 4 seasons. And people like me, like Mel Brand and other people like that, had seen 20 years of seasons, okay? So for me, I'd rather listen to someone who's actually lived it, been there, done that, for a while, a long time. And so I went into my mission, like I was already doing my readings. I was already, I was a psychic doing this for fucking decades. Okay. So then I upped it to twin flames because I wanted to help people. Not to mention, I really enjoyed doing the content, and I loved seeing that it was helping people. That was number 1. Number 2, I became transcendental and saying, in this life or the next, I surrender. And that was it. And those two things, in me embracing walking alone, the rest of the journey alone, and being fully self-realized and saying, I surrender to this fate, probably also trained me to when he was going to die anyway, to be on the side note. But what happened was that's what brought us into union. And then finally, we had the nectar of 1 year. Not even 1 year, actually. Not even 1 year. Almost 1 year. And in that almost 1 year, we were able to do the kinds of things that created, as you know, the evolution from flame to ray. And I'm still in shock, to be honest with you, because I didn't think we were going to make it. So when you let go, and because many of you want this union to happen, you look in the mirror and you want Sally to be in union with her twin, instead of going, the soul that is embodying Sally accepts that it might not be in this incarnation, but it'll definitely be in the next 2 or 3 incarnations. And then when I get people to really understand that, I'll say, feel in your heart, does that feel true? And they'll go, yeah, I think actually it's sooner. I go, okay, is it wishful thinking or is this true? Check your heart. It's true. Okay, good. Then go with that. Does that make sense? So when you go into karmic loops is when you want it now the way you want it. packaged the way you want it. That will cause incredible suffering, which creates karmic loops, right? That's a problem. So that's it. Once we get off the wheel, I feel like we go to the next planet or school. Absolutely. This is my last incarnation. Michelle, a part of me makes me feel like it's my last here too. Michelle, there's just too much I understand past this realm. I saw someone saying that twin rays are not the same as are not the same soul as you. People have no fucking idea what a twin ray is. I actually studied twin rays like way before. I've seen them in action. And twin rays are Mary Magdalene, to give you an idea, and Yeshua. They're the same soul. They're having concurrent incarnations in different avatars like we are as twin flames. Again, people have some of the things you're hearing about the beauty and the ease of twin flames is actually the reality of twin rays. It has nothing to do with us at all, or you. I'm going to say you, because I'm going to tell you why. Because one day, and I've done a couple of readings, but one day I did a reading, and the lady lived in England, and I did her numerology and blah, blah, blah. And I looked at her and I went, holy fuck. She went, what? I go, you're not twin flames, you're twin rays. She went, what? Oh my God. I went, no, here, hang on. And so I did some more things. I tapped into my guides. I go, and sure enough, I got no, they're twin rays. So I said, you have all of the gifts of a twin, but none of the bullshit of the flame. She went, that's exactly, yes, our marriage is, yes, that's us. I went, okay. She said, I could always relate to it, but I couldn't relate to the drama. I went, yeah, because it's not you, you're twin rays. So most people talking about twin rays don't have a fucking clue. I'm being honest. They have no fucking clue. And so they'll write all about, oh, your twin ray, your twin flame would never treat you like that. Your twin flame would never do X, Y, and Z. No, they're talking about twin rays. They would never do X, Y. They would never cheat on you. They would never lie to you. They would always be honest. They would actually tell you. The telepathy is completely understood by both of you. You're charismatic. You're magnetic. You're in service, or one of you is in service. There's no issues. If you fight, it's not even a fight. It's a disagreement. It's insane. And I've seen twin rays in action, full on. And so I don't believe in labels either, but they help. It's kind of like you instead of saying, hey, you're calling me Tony, right? Hey, doesn't mean, it could be everybody in a crowd would turn around, hey. So the label is to refine, because unless we have a language, we're going to start grunting and barking. So with that said, the label, twin ray. And I agree with you on many levels, but we're not there yet to telepathically communicate. So until then, the label. So twin ray is a divine soul couple that have had these concurrent incarnations in different bodies, right? The male, female, typically, or same gender. They share the same soul. They're split in half, exactly. And they have one higher soul. And they move through this life, and they have the ease of their telepathy is because the monkey mind, their false ego, the crappy little roommate in your head that makes runners and chases happen is gone. It's been neutralized. It's been trained out of them. They're actually incredibly refined people. They're actually very advanced. I don't care if they're kindergarten levels. Like with me and my twin, we are preschool level, twin ray, preschool. We're just now getting our little badges, our little, red strawberries and a little gold star and a little notebook. You made it. Boom. Did you know you'd make? No, we didn't know. But we made it because the egos, his mind, were ground to dust. Completely, utterly ground to dust. No more bullshit. No more lies. No more lying by omission. No more holding on because what if he knows that I really love him? Gone. Everything was laid out on the table. Everything. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And that kind of purging and radical honesty, very rarely do people bad and the ugly. And that kind of purging and radical honesty, very rarely do people have the opportunity to experience. Okay? And so when twin rays are incarnated, they've gone through a lot of the shit. They've earned their stripes. And they have a wonderful marriage. They really do. And the souls that are incarnated through them are very special star seeds, probably high level, you know, and we're all high level, don't get me wrong, but they're less likely to have amnesia. That's what I mean by high level. They're not dealing with amnesia. You know what I mean? What else can I tell you? So people who talk about twin rays, that really, I've come across in my whole incarnation, five, that's it. There's not that many. And most of us are in that twin flame union, which eventually the possibility of graduating to twin ray is absolutely possible in your lifetime. And if you look back at my videos from last year, back in March, April, you'll see that I say that. And you'll see me saying, I'm not sure if we'll make it, but I know many of you can. I didn't think we were going to make it, but we did. So it's possible. And it doesn't matter if it's the last hour. It doesn't matter if it's the last week of your life, their life, or your lives together. It can happen. Sometimes that's what it takes, actually, I think. The ego to be ground to dust. Sorry, I'm dyslexic with my sentence. Don't worry about it. I saw someone saying that twin rays are not the same. Okay. Are they both ascended masters? Who's ascended masters? Ascended masters are Yeshua and Mary Magdalena. Okay. The ones that I'm thinking of, are they ascended masters as we speak? No, but they are within this. I wouldn't be surprised because they're young. They're very young. When I met them, they were in their 20s. So now they're in their early 30s. By the time they're my age, they could actually get to that level of ascended mastery. Absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised because the way they see each other, I've never seen couples see each other. I've never witnessed that before, not to that level. Okay. The other twin rays that I know personally, I haven't seen them in action. And then, so there's one I know, right? I've seen them in action. There's another one I know. I've never seen them in action, but I know them very well. And there's three more that were my clients. Three more that ended up being my clients. And because they were confused over what they were, three more that ended up being my clients. And because they were confused over what they were. And there was no issue, like none. Like no fighting, no bullshit. It was like, but they'd heard about this. And so they didn't tell me, by the way. I told them, and then they confirmed what I had said. They confirmed it to me saying, yeah, that's what we thought, but we wanted to make sure. So we didn't tell you. We wanted to know. That's, so I could, for all I know more. See, what's happening right now, unlike anything we've ever seen in the history of humankind, ever, is that we are actually, the ascension is part of moving out of the flame, which is, burning everything down, to, like a phoenix rising, to the rays of light. And so many of you have that in you. I think a lot of us are going to graduate, believe it or not. Those of us who are doing the work are going to graduate. I don't care if you're dropping your body, and as you drop your body, you come into union with your twin on that level of ray, and you both look at each other going, wow, we fucking made it. We graduated. It's portals. It's like a download of frequency, ascension light codes, purification of the flame energy out of your etheric energy, gone, done, purged forever, and no regression. Because we can't be hustled, betrayed, lied to ever again like we were before we started falling out of the high dimensions and incarnating here. You know what I mean? It takes work to get to Ray. So, well, I mean, this couple was, I massive respect for them. Like I said, I've never seen a couple in action like that in my life. Never. I've seen great couples, don't get me wrong, but I mean, I really have, but the way they, I don't even want to get into it because the way they would communicate was like, like I said, it was easy. The level of respect was effortless. It wasn't put on. It wasn't tried. It wasn't like, like pulling teeth. It wasn't like, let me put my ego on the shelf while I try to have this conversation. It was easy. It was smooth as fuck. It was like amazing. I've never seen people like that before. So yeah, I would say they're ascended. She's a shaman and he is a healer. So I would say, yeah, I would say they're on their way. Why do you think the universe put me in the situation to work with my twin? Because your ego needs to heal, and your ego needs to be out of the way so that your soul can speak. And until you allow your soul to speak and to be heard by you, your monkey mind is going to throw you in situations that you shouldn't even be in. You cannot ascend until you are training your monkey mind to shut the hell up so that your soul can speak, be heard, guide you to the right path so that you can connect to all the creators. You can connect to your guides. That's why. That's actually why. Okay? How will I know when that happens? Sweetie, you don't know when it happens. It is a force that it's kind of like smelling the rain before it comes. You know. How will you know? You know. To ask the question, how will I know? No offense. This is not to put you down at all. You have to understand, knowledge like that is felt in every cell of your body. It feels like a door closed and one open. It's metaphoric what I'm saying, but it's not actually. It's a powerful knowing. It's called what I call the unspoken knowing. You know at the moment. It's like a hit out of nowhere and there's nothing like it, and you know something just shifted. Just like we can feel the shift in the energy that have been going on for the last 2 weeks, where many of you have been exhausted. There's been an ebb and flow of energy, good, and then suddenly sinking into despair and going back up into the rise of the wave. It's been insane for the last 2 weeks, and it's an unspoken knowing. It's just a knowledge. It's just a knowing. You know, trust me, it's not complicated. It's just like one day I was sitting with my twin and I knew. And he knew. He looked at me and smiled. I went, he knew. It was like we both felt it at the same time. So it was interesting that we went through that together. But this journey that so many people want to have, like they treat twin flame journey. It's interesting, the complete bastardization of the twin flame journey and the ignorance of twin rays. The twin flame journey is desired by people. I want a twin flame, like they're ordering a Rolex watch and they're on a 3-year waiting list. And then there's another bastardization of twin flames or cuckoo, it's new age, which I've again illustrated that Plato spoke about us, and we go back even further than that. In fact, we were twin flames on other planets. So there you go. Now what? Are you going to tell me that I made this up? No. Too many of us are remembering our incarnations on other planets. And too many of us are not going to be gaslit any longer. We have the freedom of speech. We live in a timeline that gives us the freedom of speech to speak this without being burned at the stakes or tortured by the Inquisition. So you have to understand, for many of you, your throat chakra has been fucked. That's why I did the exercise with this young man that I worked on 2 days ago. Because it is not a small thing. When your throat chakra, when you can't do a mantra in the fullest power of your voice, yeah, that's trauma in your throat chakra. It probably hits your root chakra as well. And in fact, all your chakras are out of alignment. One chakra. It probably hits your root chakra as well. And in fact, all your chakras are out of alignment. Once you start booming, this is why I've got my shaman drums, and I'll sometimes even before like an Akashic reading, I'll go ahead and drum. That's why I start like sometimes 45 minutes before I'm supposed to start with a client, because typically I do my Akashic reading 20 minutes. I meditate at the most 30. Typically I like to do 30, but 15 minutes before even that, I start drumming. I've already saged myself. I've done the 4 corners above and below, and I start really wailing a mantra or something, even if it's just primal wailing, to open all the channels in my body so that I can receive, right? And then I go into my meditation with a mudra, and there comes the downloads. And so That's important stuff. Everything's important. You got to know when you're blocked and when you need to unblock. You need to know when to release. You need to you need to be sensitive to your body. It's kind of like, I love that story, The Princess and the Pea. I don't know if you know that story, where she's sleeping on 100 mattresses and she can still feel the pea, the little pea at the bottom of her mattress, the last one at the bottom. It's that kind of sensitivity, and that kind of sensitivity is laughed at. And it's actually your it's your little thermostat that's telling you where you're at. And it's interesting. People have been taught to be so out of touch with everything that to come back to it is going to be a little hard, but eventually you'll get into the groove and you'll start believing in what you're feeling. Thank you. Anyway, so any other questions? Thank you for following me. I appreciate that. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so ultimately, what's going to happen as you go through the progression of your ascension, some of you will actually do much of it will have to be alone. Why? Because you still are learning what it is to mean to be in 3D awakening. Awakening there are steps to that graduation. Very similar to going to preschool, then to kindergarten, then to grade school, and so on into a PhD. There's a process. And even beyond the PhD, there's more to learn. As you all know, the more you know, the less you know. And that kind of humility will serve you well, because as you go through your self-training or guided training from other influencers, people that create, that coach, whatever, like people like me, and we have a list of books to give you. And I've been procrastinating on a long time on giving a list of books, because some books I don't want to give, because some books people aren't ready, because the last thing I want to do is make people afraid. And some people are easily afraid while they go through their twin flame journey, while they go through their ascension journey, while they're going through their discovery. I know that they're afraid, because if they weren't afraid, they'd be doing fucking hypnotherapy like it's coming out of style. That's why I know people are afraid. People are afraid because they're afraid of being out of control. Control. You're in your bedroom or in your living room, and we're on a Zoom call and you're doing your hypnotherapy. What are you afraid of? You think I'm going to make you roll over and bark like a seal? Am I going to come and hurt you? No. So I know they're afraid. They're afraid of what will be released. You see? So there are books that I know are powerful, but I know that the wrong person, it could make them run back into the cave of ignorance. So I really want to only share certain what I call primers. And then once I will not refer powerful books until I know people, to be honest. Because, and I've mentioned some of those powerful books here and there. I've actually read some of them, but I know that people are afraid. They're afraid. They think they're going crazy. And I don't want them to run back. I want them to keep coming out and get more and more acclimated to the new consciousness that's coming into their realm. And I want it to be more and more, I want them to be at ease with this energy. I want them to embrace the magic. I want them to see the magic, for one. And I want them to discern bullshit from good. I'll give you an example. Edgar Cayce, right? Oh, the Sleeping Prophet. I read maybe 2 chapters. I was like, no, done. There's certain, and it's not to influence you. You may read it and love it. I read Rempati Lopsang. I read Shirley MacLaine, believe it or not. I read Ruth Montgomery. I read Ignatius Donnelly. I read people like that were coming out. I read fiction on the concept of time travel. Like, for example, Richard Matheson in Somewhere in Time. The book is way better than the movie. Way, way better. It'll blow your mind, because it totally asserts, especially now that we live in this timeline, it asserts the idea of time being non-linear at all. I mean, it really shows it, and how the monkey mind will fuck you up on a penny. How incredibly easy it is for us to go through a portal and then get spat out of it because we don't think it's possible. So the concept of meditation that we see the monks who have mastered that up in the Himalayas, Nepalese mountains and so forth, right in the Himalayas. And you see these guys and they Shaolin masters and these other types of people who have mastered their minds, their monkey minds, so that they can actually control the body temperature, their heartbeat. Some of them have gone into surgery with zero anesthesia and no issue, because the monkey mind is quieted down to not even a whisper, silence. That shit's amazing. And so when you feel that you are scared or you feel like you're going crazy, that's your monkey mind rebelling to your awakening. This is why I love the story of Plato's parable of the cave. And I did do a video on that you can check it out on my YouTube channel. It's called Plato's Parable of the Cave, for real. And because it illustrates, I mean, fuck, Plato he knew our problems with fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of growth, fear of being self-empowered. It's illustrated in The Matrix. It's illustrated in a lot of movies. We revere people who are cowardly. And when you're in pain, I would think that you'd want to like jump into the mosh pit of the medicine, whatever that medicine is. I would imagine. I mean, even if you fuck up, even if you do the wrong thing, it's still better than doing nothing. Because you can say, well, that didn't work. That wasn't exactly what I was hoping for. Next time I'll be more conscious when I work with a healer. I'll ask more questions. You know, I remember when I first started doing my readings, the questions I always got was, are you in union with your twin? Which I was. How long have you been in union with your twin? And, you know, I'm very private, but I understood where they were coming from. Those were good questions, because why would you take advice from someone who's just started their journey 2 years ago? They don't even have the full story yet. They don't know anything. So 2 years ago, they don't even have the full story yet. They don't know anything. So the evolution of your ascension, why it's important that you start it, is because your twin at the most unreal moment, you'll go, yeah, that person's never coming back. They're married to XYZ, or they're doing X, Y, and Z, or they're in Hong Kong, or they're in Japan, and they're not coming back. But when you are ascending, you're awakening, remotely triggering your twin. And what you think is the most impossible situation, meaning you and your twin being in union, will happen, can happen. The only thing that's going to destroy that is you saying, oh, we'll never be in union. Just like me, when I said, I doubt we'll ever come into twin ray connection. Like, seriously, I doubted it. I knew we'd come back together. That I knew. Like, I knew that. I never doubted it for a minute. But the problem is the pain of the separation, the worry of him, and why would I not be worried about the never coming into union with him? Well, because I knew that no matter what, see, I had done a reading years before, and I knew that he would come back to me, and it would be the last leg of our journey. We might have a couple separations, but eventually the last leg would be with me. And I was correct. But also, let's say I had been wrong. The other thing I embraced was I realized that no matter what, we'll never be separated. Like, it might be where I die, and then he stays behind, and then eventually he dies 5 years later or whatever, and I join him. We'll always be together. Like, there's no separation. The separation, when they say the separation is an illusion, I can attest to that. It's an illusion. However, the monkey mind will cause you pain, because yes, it's an illusion. Yes, you're talking to him. Yes, you're connecting with him. But the pain is real, because the nectar of who they were and the avatar they chose to incarnate in, you know, their smell, the sound of their voice, the look in their eyes, the way their eyes would shine, their laugh, the way their bodies felt, That is gone. That will never be, never again will it be like that. It'll be different. It'll be just as sweet. But it will never be. But it's funny because it reminded me of what I wanted to say about the voice. The voice of the twin. This is important. This is very important. The reason why I don't like people texting twins is because your voice is nectar. Now, let me explain. Now, in this incarnation, you may have a Southern accent or an Irish accent or Italian accent, right? It's not the accent that makes it the nectar, your voice being the nectar. It's the intonation. Think of a dog that can hear a whistle that you can't hear, right? So there's a frequency to the voice that is not throat chakra based in that way. It's a soul frequency that creates a vibration that then reverberates through the body of the throat chakra, and it's familiar. And that's why when you talk to your twin on the phone, it could, I don't know about you, but it feels like pure nectar. It feels like a warm shower. It feels like the sun on your face. It feels like an incredible, and it's mutual. It's not one-sided. It's completely mutual. When we first met, we were talking, he would say that my voice was the voice of an angel. Now, that was his perception because my frequency to his ear reminded him of multiple incarnations on this planet, other planets, and it was just so familiar that it felt like a choir of, a frequency that was healing. And it was absolutely mutual. It felt the same to me. So when you discuss things with your twin, try to keep texting at a minimum and make sure that you're doing a lot of talking. Because trust me, that's going to activate them. As long as you, excuse me, I'm tired. As long as you keep texting and you keep that fucking going on, you're going to fuck up opportunities to trigger them, to awaken something in them, to activate them, to wish to see you or you see them. Keep the voice flow going. Keep the text at a minimum and the voice at a maximum. FaceTime, if you can. Physical, yes, all of that. But definitely at a minimum, the voice. Fuck the texting. Fuck that. And because there's an avoidance to that. It's easy to stay angry in a text. It's much harder when you pick up on the voice. Something is, unless somebody really fucked up. And at that point, even the voice will be angry, but even that will be, it's weird. I don't know how else to explain it. Hopefully you'll listen to that advice because it's, I know for a fact. Rumbles in the pit of my stomach. That's cool. Very cool. It was a metaphor that helped me understand. So, let me see here. Let me read your comments. Let me see. Like a baby starts with milk, then baby food, then later. Yes. But you mean on the growth, right? What do dreams mean? I constantly see my twin in dreams. Oh, what do the dreams mean when you're constantly in separation with your twin? And what do the dreams mean? Well, the dreams are telling you you're actually having, you're actually astral traveling. You're actually, some of your dreams are dreams. Your mind is working out its pain. That's number one. Number two, but some of them, so there's three types of dreams. There's just you emotionally working shit out. Could be like an lucid dream. The third one is an oracle dream. It's telling you what's going to happen. And that's the second one. The third one is astral traveling. You're actually meeting your twin on the higher dimensions and frequencies to talk. So, but what it does illustrate is that you guys are not... There's something going on where you guys aren't talking. In other words, why aren't you talking? If you're having dreams, trust me, they're having dreams too. If they're not remembering the dreams, because some of you can remember, there's another half of you can't. You can't. But I know what you do. I know it for a fact. If you can't remember dreams, you'll wake up knowing you dreamed about them. You won't remember the dream. In fact, you might even wake up with tears on your cheeks. But you'll know you dreamed of him. You might not remember anything, recall nothing. And some of you will remember every fucking detail. And if I were you, I would write down the dreams because there's a puzzle being put together. Or it could turn into... And if I were you, I would write down the dreams, because there's a puzzle being put together. Or it could turn into an oracle dreaming, which was, it's a future. It's telling you what a future you can expect. Thank you, love. I prefer straight to, exactly. I'm with you on that too. Straight to FaceTime. I totally agree. But some won't, let's be honest. Some of them, I know I tried to do FaceTime a couple times and then I didn't want to do FaceTime either, but we were always on the phone talking. If he texted me, it would be, I'm going to call you in 10 minutes. That was it, because I was working with clients. So I could put my phone on a certain level and, and say, no, I'll be done in 20 minutes. I'll call you back. And that was the texting. That was it. And then we also texted each other images, nature, poems, photos, things of that nature. It was cool. But I think that, all of our conversations were on the phone. And it was I think there was a lot of pain towards the end for both of us, because the separation shouldn't have lasted as long as it did. I mean, shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? But again, the universe was conspiring. There was more that needed to happen. And sometimes, and I told this story before, but I'll tell it again. I had a client who had a twin flame, knew it for a fact. She's also a psychic. She's surrounded. She's got families who are psychics. They all, yeah, he's a twin. And she was in separation. They got back together. I've told this story before, but it's worth repeating, because this is something many of you need to understand. And you have to become transcendental. So they lived in Canada. They started, they lived, they had just moved in. 2 months into the relationship, it's snowing out. And she's like, oh God, I'm out of buttermilk. I was going to make biscuits. And he's like, oh yeah, I'll go get it. No, don't do that. It's snowing. It's crazy out there. Don't do that. Just stay home. And she was concentrating on something else. And she started going on she was making buttermilk, with the milk, with a little bit of vinegar or whatever. And she didn't know where he was. And she called out and no answer. She looked out, the car was gone. She texted him, where are you at? He goes, oh, I went to get buttermilk. I went out to get it. And hours elapsed. And before you knew it, there were 2 cops at her door. And they had told her that he had been in a car accident. He had perished. And I remember meeting her. She was like, absolutely. She said, it took me 15 years to get over this. 15 years. I said, you gave him the best. The last 2 months, he was absolutely blissed out to be with you. Blissed out. He's still with you. She goes, no, I know he's with me, but I couldn't handle it. A twin flame separation, unless you become transcendental, can absolutely, utterly destroy you. And separation means death in this case. And so you have to look at, is the glass half full? Yes. What was it? Well, for the last 2 months we were together, we made love, we had fun, we did all kinds of, all the things that separated was done. Everything was healed. In this incarnation, we did it all. And it was time for him to go home. And I said to her, I need you to start learning how to communicate. The work continues. You're still here, boots on the ground. As a psychic, you need to communicate with him, my friend. You got to do whatever you got to do. You got to talk to him every day. And she did. And she is, But, it's not about the length of time of being with your twin. It's the nectar and the quality and how much you were able to separately learn to finally come together into union, to finally move away from each other, because one person has to continue the work on this. You've got soul contracts with other people. Their soul contract is done and they've moved on, and God bless them. Thank God they're gone, because now they can do other things and prepare to welcome you when you get home, right? And that is something that is easier said than done. But if you understand that, if that becomes your normal thought process, then God forbid that should happen, but should it happen to you, which most likely, if you're going to survive them, obviously it will, then you can get, in a way, practicing that consciousness so that when you are with them, you make death your advisor and you spend all the nectar of your time with them as much as you can, and not because you're coming from a place of fear, because you're coming from a place of abundance and gratitude that you're finally together. And the last leg of your journey, especially if you're not foreseeing a separation again, this was the last separation, this is your final union, right? Then your job should be to do all you can to clear as much shit as possible so that whoever drops their body first, the work's been done. And you're finishing and tying up your own soul contract with yourself and other people. And hopefully you're finishing up your mission. And hopefully you're doing the best you can while while they're preparing for your arrival. So, because there is the soul review, the life review, right? There's that. There's things that need to be forgiven to themselves. There are things that they need to work on. They have a guide. They have a soul team, your soul team, which is their soul team. There's shit to be done. Believe me, they're busy on the other side. Just because you can't see them doesn't mean they're not busy doing shit. But you can, because we're multidimensional light beings, when you call on them, they can come at a moment's notice, on the spot. That's wonderful, Jess. So, yeah, it's really, it's exciting, isn't it? Your personal story taught me that. I'm so grateful that I don't fear losing my twin. Yeah, because it continues. Believe me, the nectar of their kiss, of their touch. I remember, I don't want to get into it because it's really personal and beautiful and something I value. So, I value all the stories I tell you, but suffice it to say, he was aware. He had very little time so there were certain things he gave me that he needed to give me on a somatic level. That was so beautiful. And he, like he's with me, and I'm not just saying that like Lulu. Like literally, he's with me. I hear his voice. I hear him talking. I go into my tarot cards and my oracle cards, and just for the hell of it, I'll go, "Are you here?" And boom, and there comes the card. That's exactly the card that would say yes. And I don't mean just a yes card. I'll give you an example. It will be Two of Cups or Ace of Cups, or it will be one of those. It'll be High Priestess of the Magician with the Ace of Cups in between. It's like you can't make this shit up. There's 70 fucking cards in a deck. You can't make it up. So I stopped doing that because it's not a monkey trick, okay? He's not here to entertain me. But in the beginning, I was doing that to make sure, are you there? And when I ask to make sure there's no corrupted download, because that is a concern, you want to sage yourself. You want to protect yourself with the archangels. You want to make sure that you're in a protection mode so nothing else can step in. Hence why, many of us who are in the psychic world do not use Ouija boards, because it attracts the wrong egregores. What's my opinion on age gap? Well, let me just say that my twin was 15 years older than me. I don't give a shit. My son's twin is 20 years older than him. They, in this incarnation, will not be in union, but they're best friends. And I don't care. They're in twin flames. There's age gap, racial disparity, religious differences, cultural differences, language barriers. Twin flames are really complicated. Yeah, you see a lot of that. There's always something in there that's completely, so they might be the same race, but they're coming from totally different economic setups or educational or cultural differences or religious differences. For example, right? I've had twin flames that were Muslim and Jewish. And I mean both devout Muslim and devout Jewish. Twin flames. Yeah, there you go. Have fun with that one. Devout Muslim and devout Jewish. Twin flames. Yeah, there you go. Have fun with that one. And that is not a joke. This is where people get tested, because twin flames are also there to trigger families. So let's say in the 1950s, there's a couple called the Loves. They were called the Loves. They were twin flames. And she was African-American, light-skinned African-American. I would say she was probably all kinds of mixed bloods there. He was a very good looking. She was beautiful. He was very good looking. He was white guy with blonde hair and blue eyes, and they met in the 1950s, and they were raised together. There was no segregation in their little world, right? Obviously, and this was during Jim Crow. And they made Life magazine, and they triggered the fuck, not just out of their families, out of the neighbors, out of the state. They came from, I think it was North or South Carolina. They triggered the fucking entire country, okay? in just wanting to be together. So twin flames do that shit. They trigger the hell out of people. And I know that they probably graduated into twin. There's no doubt, in my humble opinion, that they graduated into twin ray. No doubt, because in fighting the system, which made their marriage outlawed, they actually went to jail. Just so you know, they broke a lot of barriers, including changing laws. That's twin ray energy. That's like Mary Magdalene and Yeshua. I'm not joking. In that level of energy. It changed the face of America. They're called the Loves. So, yeah, that's twin energy. And because we're so powerful, in the way that our energies together impact on waves upon waves of frequency that goes hundreds of thousands of miles. And I'm not making this up. There has been a very concerted, focused PR marketing to completely destroy the concept that the twin flame journey story is real. Completely destroy it. Laughing at it, denigrating it. And you've got a lot of people who are jealous, who I said earlier in this little live, who have never been made love to. Never. In fact, your average human being has never, especially women, have never had the big O, much less that kind of big O. And this is not even big O on a vulgar level. It's a transcendental spiritual level. It is so tantric that you're jumping out of your bodies and actually kissing your souls. You know what I mean? It can be, don't trust me, it can be, the sex can also be vulgar. Don't get me wrong, in a fun way. But when it's tantric, when the kiss is tantric, it's like the body melts away and the soul is kissing. It's like electricity. It's like power. It's a power that's beyond sex. And that's why these people don't understand it. That's why they think we're crazy. They do. They think it's a cult. But in a way, they've been programmed to program the 90% of the planet to think that we've made this up. To think that, I hate the word limerence. I fucking hate that word. But obsession. And it's not. And I did a video because we are also accused of being codependent. And the funny thing about twin flames, and that's a twin flame truth, is that we're the least codependent couples you'll ever see. Why? Because we're always in separation. We're in separation, then we live together in my case, we lived together for 5 years, then we're in separation, then we lived for another year. For example, okay? That there's nothing codependent about that shit at all. Most of us are very, in fact, my twin and I are massively lone wolves. And we were only happy with each other. We didn't want crowds. We don't want crowds. We don't want adulations. We didn't want to be famous. Leave us the fuck alone. We just want to meditate together, make love, and read books, you know? But twin flames are definitely not codependent. In fact, I find that high-level soulmates and soulmates are definitely codependent. We're not. And we're accused of being codependent. That's a lie. Because what happens is, if it started as a codependence journey, I can assure you after the first separation, you've trained yourself not to be codependent anymore. You become much more independent and you come into your union and you're not clinging to your twin like you're afraid they're going to run away because something in you got, reset where you know that no matter what century, you will never be apart. You will never lose each other. You will all be together. You don't have to worry. There's nothing to worry about. You're fine. You're going to be fine. That makes us very independent. And people don't like that. And they will accuse me of lying, but the proof is in the fucking pudding. People are literally in separation for 2 years, and they're fucking living their lives, not dating other people, not self-soothing and doing other things like dating other people. They're not. Some of them are meeting their high-level soulmate. They're not, like I said, there's a lot of eggs being thrown at us left and right by design because of the power of twin flames. Another famous twin flame couple that I can speak to you, and probably on a twin ray level, honestly, I'm not sure. I'm not going to lie and tell you I'm 100% sure because I don't know them personally, obviously, but it's David Bowie and Iman. David Bowie and Iman. Perfect marriage. What was interesting with David Bowie, that should give you some hope. David Bowie, if you know anything about him, I've brought him up before, did everything. He was bisexual. He was into drugs. He was into heroin. He was wearing makeup. He was cross-dressing. He had lovers, men, women, this, that, and the other. And then suddenly he went, he straightened his shit out. He was like, what am I doing? Let me get my shit together. He got his shit together. He got spiritually aligned. He got healed, right? And this is when he was just doing his Thin White Duke series in the 80s. And in early 1991, I believe it was 91 or thereabouts, he met Iman. And it was like, boom, that's it. We're done. We're in. And to this day, he's gone, right? And she lives up in the Catskills. There's a house that they bought a while back. And she will never remarry. And she refuses to say he's dead. In other words, she refuses to say she's a widow. I should rephrase that. She refuses to say she's a widow. As far as she's concerned, she's still married to David Bowie. She is his wife. He's on the other side of the veils. She's here. They're still in union, as far as she's concerned. And only a twin flame or twin ray would understand Iman saying that. The rest of the world probably thinks she's crazy, to be honest. But we understand that. We're like, yeah, nodding our heads. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I could see that. And we're not hungry or thirsty for just a body in our beds. Because sex at that point, after you've been with your twin, is so sacrosanct that it would have to take something very intense to come in and replace that. And we're so protective, we won't replace it anyway. We don't want a replacement. I'm older too, 15 years, different religion, race, and so forth. Exactly. You hit all the marks. It's like you hit all the marks. All right. So listen, I'm going to go. It's late. I have a hypnotherapy session tomorrow afternoon. If you want to follow me, TikToks is being banned. I don't know. They're playing games. I'm not sure. Follow me on YouTube. I will post this live on YouTube. Follow me on YouTube. It's the same handle as Sacred Intimacy Tarot. You can go on my Linktree profile if you want a hypnotherapy session. Thank you, Jess. That's very sweet. If you want a hypnotherapy session, if you want to book an Akashic reading or twin flame reading, you can go on my profile page on my Linktree. My website is attached. And also my YouTube is there. My book Recall is based on my actual past life in Mesopotamia with my twin, actually. And it's there. It's very erotic. And TikTok banned it because it's too erotic. And also there's some trigger warnings. There's like sacrifice, which I mentioned. And there's also cheating. There's cheating. But it's cheating from a place of survival. It's a different age. It's Mesopotamia, 3,500 years before the Common Era. So, but definitely if you want a reading, let me know. But please, I'm not going to DM you. I'm not going to approach you. Please don't get scammed by these scammers who there are two websites that TikTok will not take down. On TikTok with my picture and all my content. I have how many people I think I have 23,000 followers. I'm the one with the highest followers. Like don't get hustled. Okay. Don't